Chapter 5097 was a joke out of curiosity. Gowei Batsao did not get down from the mast. He wanted to see what it was. A moment later, a shrill scream came from the front. Lan Dimeo was shocked and immediately ordered the boat to stop moving forward. He stretched his neck and looked into the distance. However, the night was heavy and he could not see what was in front of him. He could not see, but Gowei Batsao could. Firstly, it was standing high up. Secondly, it had good eyesight. One of the Qi family's boats capsized in an instant. The water surface was instantly dyed red with blood. Some people escaped to the other 3 boats, but some people lost their lives. Gowei Batsao also saw what the shimmering thing was. It was indeed a large school of fish. As for the shimmering, it was not their scales but their sharp teeth. It was likely that these strange fish used their teeth to make holes in the boat. After the boat capsized, they would attack the Qi family's people. Gowei Batsao immediately felt that things were not looking good. There were many strange fish and they were all submerged in the water. Even if the Lan family released their spiritual beasts in advance, it might not be of much use. Thinking of this, just as he was about to warn Yun Chujio, he realized that Yun Chujio had already climbed onto the mast. Gowei Batsao thought that this stinky girl was indeed alert. However, it was also true. Those people's screams were so shrill. If she did not wake up soon, she would be a pig. However, this stinky girl had turned into a pig demon in the past. She even grew a pig's nose. Ah, what a joke. In order not to be discovered by Yun Chujio, Gowei Batsao carefully hid in a tiny crack in the mast while gloating over her misfortune. Yun Chujio climbed to the top of the mast and looked into the distance. Although her eyes were not as sharp as Gowei Ba, her brain was sharp. Based on the blurry scene she saw, she could roughly guess what was going on. The situation was a little difficult. Firstly, there were too many strange fish. Secondly, they were attacking the ships. Even the Qi family's swamp ships could not withstand the strange fish, let alone her swamp ships. If she used the previous method, it would not work. The intelligence of these strange fish was not as high as those swamp crocs. Gowei Batsao could not attract their full attention. What should she do? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Gowei Batsao took the opportunity when Yun Chujio was not paying attention and finally crawled into Yun Chujio's hair as he wished. This guy thought to himself, looks like this stupid girl has no other way. However, if they sacrificed a portion of their people, they should still be able to escape. However, this stupid girl was usually loud and noisy. In fact, she was the most protective. He reckoned that she would not do this. Lan Dimeo saw that Yun Chujio hadn't come down from the mast, so he couldn't help but ask anxiously, "Little Jio, what's going on?" Only then did Yun Chujio come down from the mast and tell him what she saw and what she guessed. When Lan Dimeo and the others heard this, they immediately turned around anxiously. Those strange fish would probably swim towards them very soon. What would they do then? Lan Dimeo gritted his teeth. If it was really impossible, he could only give up some of the guards. Although he couldn't bear it, he had to do it for the sake of the overall situation. Lan Dimeo lowered his voice and said his thoughts. Yun Chujio frowned. Although she knew that Lan Dimeo and the others didn't treat the guards as equals, this method was too cruel. Seeing Yun Chujio's frown, Lan Dimeo knew that she did not agree with his method. He said, "Unless you have other methods, this is the only method that is not a method." Chapter 5098 Overkill. Yun Chujio had never thought of herself as a good person. However, she was still unable to sacrifice the lives of her companions to protect herself. If these guards were from the Qi family, she would naturally not have any psychological burden. However, these people were all guards of the Lan family. They had passed through the blood-cursed forest together and fought against the demon beasts in the swamp. In a sense, they were comrades in arms. Giving up her comrades was not Yun Chujio's style of doing things. Moreover, if she gave up a part of her people, their fighting strength would be weakened. At that time, if there was an even greater danger, they would be even less able to resist. Therefore, no matter what, she could not give up a part of her people. Seeing that she did not speak, Lan Dimeo thought that she had no objections. He immediately planned to let one of the ships sail to the front to attract the attention of the strange fish. However, Yun Chujio said coldly, "Uncle, please wait a little longer. I will think of a way." Lan Dimeo shook his head. A woman's kindness. How could a person who achieved great things care about these small details? Although it was not a good idea to abandon the guards, it was still better than dying here. At this moment, Lan Luoyen cried out in surprise, because from afar she could already see a large area of shimmering light approaching them. Lan Dimeo gritted his teeth. "It's too late. We can only do as I say." Yun Chujio clenched her fists. Could it be that there was really no other way? They could only rely on sacrificing a portion of their people in such a sinister way? Lan Dimeo ignored Yun Chujio and immediately ordered one of the ships to sail in front of them, ready to abandon the guards on this ship. Those guards were not fools. They had already guessed a little, but what could they do? They were the guards after all. Their master's orders were heaven, and they had no room to resist. Even if they were unwilling, they could only hope to become a superior person in their next life, no longer a weakling who was at the mercy of others. The strange fish were getting closer and closer, and the guards were getting more and more desperate. At this moment Yun Chujio's clear voice rang out, "Everyone, don't worry. Our Lan family will never sacrifice our lives to escape. The reason why Third Elder sent your ships to the front is so that we can grasp the situation of the two ships at the front and back." The guards on the ship were skeptical. They felt that Yun Chujio was just saying beautiful words. People were selfish. They didn't believe that she was really that kind. At this moment Yun Chujio took out a swamp boat and threw a lot of demon beast meat on it. She released Gowei Batsao and said to it, "In a while, you will be responsible for using this boat to attract the attention of the strange fish." Gowei Batsao. Why did all the dirty work belong to her? Gowei Batsao was so high and mighty, but it actually let it do such a non-technical thing. It was really overkill. However, the smelly girl was smart. Those strange fish were not intelligent. As long as it was flesh and blood, it was attractive to them. Compared to the guards, the demon beast meat was not a threat, so they naturally chose this ship. Yun Chujio naturally did not know what Gowei Batsao was thinking. She continued to say to the crowd, "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. In a while I will have my spiritual beasts use this ship to attract the attention of those strange fish. Everyone will release their spiritual beasts at the same time to protect their own ships. Also, arrange a group of people to pay attention to the situation of the ship's deck. Once there is a damaged area, immediately use something to block it. No matter what, we must leave their attack range as soon as possible. Do you understand?" Chapter 5099 deserved it. When the guards saw the swamp ship filled with demon beast meat, they finally believed Yun Chujio's words. But they were not stupid. They knew that this was not Lan Dimeo's original intention. It was Yun Chujio who saved them. The corners of the guards' eyes immediately became moist. What right did they have to be protected by the young miss? They had even laughed at her behind her back before, saying that she was a country bumpkin from a lower continent and could not be compared to the other masters. They were simply not human. They deserved it. At this moment, in the hearts of the guards of the Lan family, Yun Chujio's status instantly surpassed Lan Dimeo and the Lan family. Only such a person was worthy of their loyalty and was worthy of their protection with their lives. Lan Dimeo felt a little uncomfortable, but he couldn't say anything. Moreover, he didn't think that he was wrong. After all, most people would make the same choice as him. Besides, the most important thing now was, would this method of stirring up trouble work? Would those strange fish really follow her instructions and be attracted to that boat? At this moment, the school of fish was already less than 1,000 zhang away from them. Gowei Batsao could only reluctantly push the swamp boat loaded with demon beast meat toward the school of fish according to Yun Chujio's instructions. At the same time, the members of the Lan family released their spiritual beasts to protect the swamp boat they were on. Once the strange fish were lured away by the swamp boat, they would quickly sail away. The school of fish smelled the demon beast meat on the swamp boat and immediately pounced toward the swamp boat. Gowei Batsao had to use its huge leaves to push the swamp boat away in order to lure the school of fish away. Gowei Batsao felt that it was really not easy. Other people's spiritual beasts only needed to fight and kill, unlike Gowei Batsao, which not only had to fight and kill, but also had to be responsible for the diversion of the water. Gowei Batsao was very smart. In order to prevent the school of fish from abandoning the swamp boat, it deliberately rolled up a few pieces of demonic beast meat with its leaves and threw them into the water. In this way, the strange fish tasted the sweetness and were lured further and further away by Gowei Batsao. At this time, the boat of the Lan family had already left quickly. Yun Chujio rarely praised, "Gowei, I have to say you are quite smart. You did a good job on this matter. When I have time I will refine some pills to feed you." The strange grass in the Dantian didn't know how to show off. Although the mission this time didn't bring about a small treasury, it was worth it to make the stinky girl look at it in a new light. Moreover, the small amount of money it had previously kept was enough for it to run around for a few more days. It was both famous and profitable. It was simply wonderful. Although they had temporarily gotten rid of the school of fish, everyone didn't dare to be negligent. They were afraid that if they were a step slower, they would be entangled by the school of fish again. Yun Chujio wasn't too worried. The corner of her mouth curled up slightly. Although there wasn't any problem with the demon beast meat on the swamp boat, the demon beast meat below had been sprinkled with a lot of poison. Under normal circumstances, the demon beasts had a keen sense of smell and would be able to detect the poison. However, those strange fish were greedy and would definitely not be able to detect it when they fought for it. Perhaps many of them would have already turned into dead fish by now. She had lost the swamp boat and she had also lost so much demon beast meat. Naturally, she had to teach them a lesson. Just as Yun Chujio was thinking about it, the small silver snake in her sleeve pocket started to struggle violently. Yun Chujio suddenly had a bad premonition in her heart. Fuck, is the pretty boy going to run away now? Putting aside the fact that it was embarrassing, how would she explain the sudden appearance of a living person? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5100 was sour and sweet. Hei Shinjio blinked her eyes and took out another swamp boat. Then she said seriously, I'm going to change my clothes. You are not allowed to peek. Everyone, are you crazy? What time is it now? You still have the time to change your clothes? Yun Chujio did not care about their reactions. She immediately jumped onto the swamp boat and released Gowei Batsao, making it stand guard at the bow of the boat. Gowei Batsao snorted in its heart. Did this wretched girl treat it like a house dog? She was really going too far. However, when it thought about how it could save up a small amount of money again, it was immediately elated. This fellow was afraid that Yun Chujio would discover it when she was changing, so it quickly merged into one to avoid being discovered. Yun Chujio did not know about Go Weiba's small actions. Her attention was now on the small silver snake. After she entered the cabin, she immediately took the small silver snake out and asked with a lecherous look, Prince Charming, you can change now. Come, I'm ready. The small silver snake's vertical pupils flashed with a hint of confusion. Change into what? Yun Chujio looked at him with a look of understanding. Change into what? Of course it's a big change. Don't worry, I have integrity. At most, it'll just take a few glances and touch you. I won't do anything to you. Hearing Yun Chujio's words, some images flashed through the mind of a certain venerable. Immediately the entire snake felt bad. You're shameless. A certain venerable said in embarrassment and anger. It's not like I haven't seen it before. Why are you pretending to be serious? Hurry up. If you don't change in a while, there will be demonic beasts coming over. Your pot body will be admired by everyone. Yun Chujio said casually. A certain person was so angry that he was twitching. He squeezed out a sentence from the gap between his teeth. Who said that I want to change? If you don't want to change, then why are you tormenting yourself? Hei Shinjio asked in confusion. Di Biming took a deep breath and said seriously, I feel a huge crisis. You must be careful and not be careless. Hearing that, Yun Chujio put away her casual look and asked, What crisis? I can't explain it clearly. If the earth chi doesn't spread, we'd better go back the same way. Di Biming said in a deep voice. Yun Chujio frowned. From the trend, the earth chi will not stop spreading. At this point, her eyes suddenly widened. Prince Charming, do you think the earth chi is deliberately forcing us into this 10,000-year-old swamp step by step? How is this possible? The earth chi is a natural disaster. How can it be controlled by people? Di Biming was silent for a moment before he said, Perhaps your guess is right. There is always someone better than us. Even if we can't do it, it doesn't mean that others can't do it as well. Yun Chujio thought for a moment. Yes, the mastermind behind the scenes could even wipe out the Celestials. Perhaps he could really control Earth Chi. Who was the person behind it? At this time, Di Biming said word by word, their target is definitely me. If they encounter a very dangerous situation, you will abandon me. This way you can escape. Hearing that, Yun Chujio immediately glared at a certain honored warrior and said through gritted teeth, What do you mean? Are you planning to abandon me randomly? You white-eyed snake. A certain honored warrior, while he was speechless, a sour and sweet feeling rose in his heart. This ugly girl was really, he thought about it and actually did not know what words to use to describe her. It was just that he now wanted to remember the past even more urgently. He didn't want to miss those memories. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5101. Gowei Batsao. Seeing that the little silver snake did not say anything, Hei Shinjio snorted again. You have lost your memory, not your brain. Don't say those idiotic words again, do you hear me? Seeing Yun Chujio's fierce look, not only did the man not feel angry, but he also felt sweet in his heart. He felt that he was most likely crazy. Hei Shinjio saw that the man had become obedient, so she put him back into her sleeve pocket and prepared to return to Lan Dimeo's ship. However, she suddenly remembered something and mumbled in puzzlement, "Pretty boy, didn't you lose your memory? Why do I feel that you haven't forgotten about the fruit sprinting incident?" The silver snake in the sleeve pocket was also stunned. Yes, when he heard Yun Chujo mention it just now, some images appeared in his mind. Could it be that his memory would be restored soon? Yun Chujo muttered a few words and threw the matter to the back of her mind. Anyway, whether the gigolo remembered it or not, it could not escape from her palm, so it did not matter. When she walked out of the cabin, Goei Batsao immediately compared the leaves to heart-shaped cuteness. Yun Chujo remembered that Goei Batsao had performed well recently, so she gave a rare compliment. "Good job, Goei Batsao." Goei Batsao suddenly felt that the whole plant was filled with happiness and pride. This stupid girl finally praised it. It was really not easy. In order to express his excitement, this guy waved his leaves crazily. It was called Goei Batsao. Yun Chujo did not know that this guy would suddenly go crazy. She was about to jump onto Lan Dimeo's boat, but she was hit by Guai Chao's leaves. What? After a perfect parabola, Hei Shinjo fell into the water. The worst thing was that there was a bottomless swamp under the water, and this guy fell head first. For a moment, Lan Dimeo and the others were stunned. Oh my god. What was that troublemaker doing? Why was he sent flying by his own spiritual beast? Could it be that he wanted to cool down in the water? Lan Luofeng was the first to react and shouted, "Quick! Quickly pull little Joe up. If it's too late, she'll be dead." Goei Batsao was already scared silly. "It's over. This time it's completely over. It's dead for sure. That smelly girl definitely won't let it off this time. It was wronged. Didn't it just want to do a Goei Batsao dance? Why did it cause trouble again?" Goei Batsao thought as it jumped into the water. No matter what, it had to save the wretched girl first. Otherwise, it would have nowhere to absorb the power of lightning. However, Goei Batsao did not help because when it jumped in, Hei Shinjo had already emerged from the water. Fortunately, the water here was deep. She had a water-repellent bead, so she did not sink into the water, so she did not sink into the mud. Even so, Hei Shinjo was still very angry. Seeing the Goei Batsao that had already jumped into the water, she was so angry that she went up and beat it up. However, beating it up was useless. Goei Batsao was a spiritual beast, so it did not feel any pain at all. Hei Shinjo was so angry that she gritted her teeth and roared at the Guai Chao in her dantian, "Goei Batsao. From now on you will starve. I will not feed you even a single pill." Guai Chao wanted to cry, but no tears came out. It decided to quit dancing. It would never dance the Goei Batsao dance again. Hei Shinjo was dragged onto the swamp boat by Lan Luofeng and the others. Even though she was thick-skinned, she was still a little embarrassed. No matter who was beaten by her spiritual beast, their mood would not be good. Chapter 5102. The strange aquatic plants. Goei Bakeo's leaves were drooping. It did not have the courage to board the boat, so it simply pretended to disappear. After shrinking, it lay on the side of the boat, and pretended to be dead. Everyone saw that Yun Chujia's face was gloomy. No one dared to provoke her and pretended that they did not see anything. However, everyone thought that this troublemaker had insisted on changing her clothes. Now that she had fallen into the water, wouldn't it be a waste to change her clothes? He would probably have to change his clothes later. Yun Chujio used her spiritual sense to scold Guai Chao until she felt better. After a while, she realized that there was a smell on this guy's body. There was even a piece of aquatic grass hanging from his hair. What the fuck? By the time this guy washed his hair and changed into clean clothes, the sky was already bright. When everyone saw that the sky was bright, they felt more or less relieved. The darkness could easily make people feel fear. Yun Chujio looked towards the shore. She could vaguely see the rising earth chi. It seemed that her judgment was right. This earth chi was forcing them to move towards the depths of the 10,000-year-old swamp. What exactly was there? However, they were still at the edge of the 10,000-year-old swamp. It would take them at least 3 days to reach the depths of the 10,000-year-old swamp. At noon, they were attacked by another wave of demonic beasts. This time they had experience. They released their spiritual beasts before the demonic beasts could reach them, so they were not in danger. Just when everyone was slightly relieved, Lan Luoyen pointed to the front and said, "Look, why is the water in front so green? Are they all water plants?" Everyone also saw the green patch in front of them and they were very puzzled. How could there be such dense aquatic plants? However, even though these aquatic plants were relatively dense, it should not be a problem. After all, the aquatic plants were relatively flexible, and the swamp boat could still row past them. However, they quickly widened their eyes in horror. The boat that was sailing at the front of the Chi family took the lead to enter the aquatic plant area, and then the aquatic plants actually came to life. Actually, this was not quite accurate. In short, the ship was wrapped in the aquatic plants like a green cocoon and dragged into the water. Immediately after, there was a shrill scream, and the surface of the water was instantly dyed red with blood. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Even an idiot would know that there was definitely something wrong with those aquatic plants. Most likely they were offensive demonic plants. Heavens, with such a large area of demonic plants, not to mention their swamp boats, even if there were dozens or even hundreds of them, they would not be able to cross it. However, these aquatic plants occupied a very large area. One could not see the end of it at a glance. It was basically impossible to go around them. The remaining 3 boats of the Chi family turned around in panic and quickly arrived in front of the Lan family members. The guards of the 3 families were on the ship, but Qi Anqing and the others were fine. Qi Anqing's face was pale. He was obviously scared. If the ship he was on had moved forward a few more feet, he might have been dead by now. Zhuang Ruhai was calmer. He said to Lan Dimeo, "Brother Dimeo, I'm sure you've seen what happened just now. We're in the same boat now. Why don't we work together to get through this difficult situation?" Yin Chujiu almost laughed out loud. These people were really thick-skinned, and now they could actually say such hypocritical words. Only eternal benefits, not eternal friends. Such words were most suitable for them. Chapter 5103. Interesting things. Lan Dimeo snorted coldly. Our Lan family ship isn't as advanced as yours, so it probably won't be of much help. Qi Anqing was about to flare up when Zhuang Ruhai interrupted him. Brother Dimeo, although we weren't happy before, those were just trivial matters. The most important thing now is to think of a way to pass through this area of aquatic plants. The more people there are, the more power there is. If we work together, it will be beneficial to everyone. Lan Dimeo also knew that Zhuang Ruhai was right. Right now, the most important thing for them was to think of a way to pass through this area of aquatic plants. Otherwise, if time passed and the earth chi spread over, there would really be no way to survive. Therefore, Lan Dimeo did not say anything. It was just a tacit agreement that the 4 families had temporarily formed an alliance. Zhuang Ruhai looked at Mu Kelu again. Brother Mu, your Mu family is good at refining pills. You know more about spiritual plants. What exactly are those aquatic plants? Mu Kelu shook his head. Although these aquatic plants look very ordinary on the outside, they look different from all the aquatic plants recorded in the records. Moreover, it actually has such a terrifying attacking ability. It's really unheard of. The group discussed for a while but couldn't come up with a solution. In the end, they decided to get closer and release their spiritual beasts to test it out. However, the spiritual beasts that were released were dispersed by the aquatic plants before they could do any damage to the aquatic plants. Qi Anqing tried to throw a demonic beast corpse inside. The demonic beast corpse was instantly wrapped into the same green cocoon as before, and then dragged into the water. It was too terrifying. These aquatic plants were like the Grim Reaper. They had no way of passing through. Everyone thought of all the possible solutions, but none of them worked. Fire attack. What kind of joke was this? These aquatic plants grew in the water, so fire couldn't be ignited at all. Spiritual power attack. The effect was very limited, and with such a large patch of aquatic plants, they wouldn't be able to pass through even if they were exhausted to death. Everyone was running around anxiously. If they advanced, they would die. If they retreated, they would also die. Was there really no way to survive? Yun Chujiu did not make a sound. She narrowed her eyes and looked at the water plants. She even shamelessly took out a spirit fruit and started munching on it. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Qi Tianhui had always disliked Yun Chujiu. When he saw her like this, he snorted coldly and said, Yun Chujiu, you actually still have the mood to eat. You really have a big heart. Yun Chujiu ignored him. She was just a barking dog. However, Lan Dimeo's heart moved. This troublemaker was full of bad ideas. Could it be that she already had a good idea? Thus, he thickened his skin and asked, Little Jiu girl, have you thought of a good idea? Yun Chujiu shook her head and denied it. Lan Dimeo could not help but feel a little discouraged. He thought that this troublemaker had thought of a way. It seemed that he had overestimated her. At this time, Yun Chujiu said slowly, Although I haven't figured out a way, I found something interesting. What is it? Lan Dimeo asked in confusion. Yun Chujiu pointed at the water plants and said, If these water plants didn't have any weaknesses, they would have completely occupied the water surface long ago. Therefore, these water plants must have natural enemies, or they must be restricted by something. In addition, you see, the height of these aquatic plants is different. Some of them are obviously much shorter than the others. Moreover, you can see some fractures. They must have been bitten by something. Lan Dimeo was stunned for a moment, and then said with some puzzlement, "Even if your guess is right, what's the use? It's impossible for these aquatic plants' natural enemies to help us pass through here." Chapter 5104, where proud Yunchujio nodded. "Uncle, you're right, but we might be able to find the weakness of these aquatic plants. If my guess is correct, these aquatic plants' natural enemies should appear at night. Well, wait and see after it gets dark." Although Lan Dimeo felt that what Yunchujio said made sense, he didn't have much hope. However, there was no other way now, so he could only wait until the sky turned dark. Mu Kelu and the others also heard the conversation between the two. Basically, they had the same thoughts as Lan Dimeo, so they were ready to wait and see. Soon night fell. Everyone stared at the water plants, but nothing unusual happened. Chi Tianhui immediately snorted. "Yunchujio, didn't you say that the natural enemies of these water plants would appear? Where are they?" Yunchujio still ignored him and pretended not to hear him. Chi Tianhui thought that Yunchujio was afraid of him, so he said even more harshly, "Yunchujio, don't think that you're smart and think that you're amazing. You're wrong this time." Yunchujio yawned and said to Lan Dimeo, "Uncle, the prerequisite for cooperation is sincerity. I don't think the three families have any sincerity at all. There's no need for us to cooperate with them. Let's separate from them." Lan Dimeo learned his lesson and immediately nodded in agreement. "Okay, let's draw a distance to the side and separate from them." Zhuang Ruhai immediately gave Qianqing a slap. Qianqing only had to clench his teeth and slap Chi Tianhui. "Evil creature. Stop talking nonsense and get into the cabin." Chi Tianhui was stunned by the slap. He never expected Qianqing to hit him. He wanted to argue, but he was scared speechless by Qianqing's vicious gaze. Qianqing naturally did not want to do this, but they had no way to pass through this patch of water. They could only temporarily stabilize the Lan family. After all, Yunchujio might really find a way to escape. Qianqing hypocritically said a few more words of goodwill, urging Lan Dimeo to stay. Lan Dimeo saw that Yunchujio did not say anything, so he snorted coldly. "All right, in that case, let's stay together for the time being." Qianqing and the other two were so angry that they gritted their teeth. Once they left this 10,000-year-old swamp, they had to teach Lan Dimeo a lesson. He really thought they were big-tailed wolves? Rustle. Rustle. At this moment, everyone heard a bone-chilling sound and their expressions immediately changed. They realized that the source of the sound was the seaweed. However, due to the thick darkness, they couldn't see clearly what it was that made the sound. Relying on their courage, they drew closer to the boat. Only then did they see countless small black fish in the water. Those small black fish were only an inch long and were chewing on the leaves and stems of the seaweed. "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." What was surprising was that the aquatic plants did not resist at all, as if they were no different from ordinary aquatic plants. Just as everyone was engrossed in watching, Yunchujio said to Qianqing, "Senior Qi, please send someone to find a way to catch a few small fish. I'll study them." Qianqing snorted coldly, "Why don't you let your Lan family catch them?" Yunchujio said very naturally, "Our Lan family is not as powerful as your Qi family. Our Lan family are all trash. Therefore, those who are capable will have to work hard. Such a good thing will be handed over to your Qi family." The Lan family, yes, we are trash, we are proud. The title of trash was obtained by strength. Whoever snatched it would be anxious. Chapter 5105 Small Black Fish. Qianqing wanted to turn hostile, but was stopped by Mu Kelu and Zhuang Ruhai. He could only grit his teeth and command a guard to catch the small black fish with a long net. Yunchujio narrowed her eyes. Since these people wanted to take advantage of them, they had to pay the price. Otherwise, why would they be kept? If they were not still useful, why would she acquiesce to Lan Dimeo's temporary alliance with them? Those small black fish should be very weak. The guard did not spend much effort to fish out more than 10 small fish from his net. "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Everyone felt that those small black fish were only an inch long and did not have any offensive abilities. Therefore, everyone moved forward without any defenses, wanting to see what was going on. Only the Lan family members did not move forward under Yunchujio's signal. At this moment, a few screams were heard. "It should hurt so much. My eyes, my eyes. Hands, my hands. Help. It's poisonous, quick, step back." Everyone stepped back. As it turned out, when those people leaned over to look at the small black fish spat out a stream of black liquid from their mouths. Although the amount of the liquid was not much, the corrosive power was very strong. Once it touched the skin, it would instantly corrode the skin. Everyone hurriedly dispersed. The small black fish hopped around in the net for a while. Due to the lack of water, they died very quickly. At this time, Yun Chujio raised her spiritual energy shield and picked up a small black fish with her heavenly silk gloves. Qianqing and the others were secretly resentful. This stinky girl must have guessed that there was something wrong with the small black fish, but she did not warn them. She was really cunning. However, they didn't dare to offend Yun Chujio now, so they gritted their teeth and didn't say anything. After Yun Chujio took out a dagger and cut open the little black fish, she found that not only were the little black fish's teeth very sharp, but the roots of their teeth were connected to the poison glands. The black juice was produced from the poison glands. Zhuang Ruhai immediately said, "If that's the case, this black juice should be the key to restraining those aquatic plants. The reason why those aquatic plants didn't resist at all should be because they were restrained by this poison." "That's right, Brother Zhuang's words make sense. It should be the case," Qianqing agreed. The others also agreed, thinking that Zhuang Ruhai was right. However, Yun Chujio laughed lightly and said, "You're wrong. This poison is not the nemesis of those aquatic plants, but its nutrients. The aquatic plants provide food to the little black fish, and in exchange, the little black fish provides the poisonous liquid to those aquatic plants." Everyone was in disbelief. They felt that Yun Chujio was talking in her sleep. Why would the water plants want the venom for no reason? Qi Tianhui had received a slap from Qianqing because of Yun Chujio during the day. Naturally, he would not let go of this opportunity. He sneered, "Yun Chujio, stop showing off. Do you think this is a competition to see whose story is more interesting? How could those aquatic plants be willing to be eaten by them for the venom of these small fish? What do they want the venom for?" Yun Chujio finally gave him a look of grace, but that look was no different from looking at an idiot. The aquatic plants naturally have a use for the venom. Otherwise, how do you think they digest food? If I remember correctly, after those leaves dragged the demon beast into the water, the demon beast quickly disappeared. Think about the person who was attacked by the black venom. Was his skin corroded instantly? Chapter 5106. What do you have in mind? Yun Chujio continued, "Also, don't forget that if the aquatic plants are afraid of the poison, there's no reason for them to not resist. After all, not all the aquatic plants have been eaten by the little black fish." Hearing this, everyone carefully pondered and immediately understood that Yun Chujio's answer was the correct one. They had thought things too simply. Qi Tianhui's face flushed red. Although Yun Chujio did not do anything to him, he wished he could find a hole to hide in. In order to regain his face, he snorted coldly and said, "Even if what you said is right, what's the use of knowing this? We have no way to provide the poisonous liquid to those aquatic plants." Yun Chujio looked at him with even more contempt. "Qi Tianhui, if your brain is not good, don't come out and embarrass yourself. When did I say that I would leave this place by providing the poisonous liquid?" Qi Tianhui was so angry that he almost died. He gritted his teeth and said, "Then what can you do?" Everyone also looked at Yun Chujio. Yes, even if they knew the relationship between the little black fish and the aquatic plants, what could she do to escape? Yun Chujio did not pay attention to the crowd. Instead, she shouted at the aquatic plants, "Quickly open a path, or I will kill all these little black fish. None of them will be left for you. Let's see how you will hunt for food in the future." Those aquatic plants were demonic plants, so they naturally had intelligence. Although they weren't very high, they could still understand Yun Chujio's words. In an instant, those aquatic plants began to shake violently, obviously responding to Yun Chujio's words. They were filled with disdain and anger. "Yo, you don't believe me, do you? Have you seen the medicinal powder in my hand? As long as I sprinkle the medicinal powder into the water, those little black fish will swim over obediently. At that time, we can easily kill thousands of them," Yun Chujio said as she held the medicinal powder in her hand. "Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." The water plants swayed even more violently. It was obvious that they did not believe Yun Chujio's words. Yun Chujio sneered and immediately sprinkled the powder in her hand into the water. She also signaled for everyone to hold up their spiritual energy shields to prevent them from being hurt by the black fish's venom. Immediately, over 1,000 small black fish from the water plants swam over to where Yun Chujio and the others were. Everyone was stunned. It was really useful? What kind of medicinal powder was this? Beast lure powder? But this was a swamp. How could such a small bag have such great power? Yun Chujio shouted, "What are you waiting for? Kill!" Everyone came back to their senses and attacked at the same time. The small black fish quickly turned into dead fish and floated on the surface of the water. Yun Chujio placed her hands on her waist and said to the aquatic plants, "Do you see it? If I want to, I can make them extinct, not to mention thousands of them." The leaves of the aquatic plants immediately swayed less violently, as if they were hesitating. Yun Chujio raised her voice and said, "What's there to hesitate about? Our meat isn't tasty. Do you have to fight us to the death? I'm not a patient person. I'll count to 10. If you still don't give way, I can only choose to exterminate those small black fishes. Anyway, once they die, the toxins in your bodies will be used up very quickly. Let's perish together. Also, don't have any bad ideas. Prepare to suddenly attack us when we're in the middle. We're not that stupid. We'll advance in batches. Once you break your promise, just wait for the fish to die and the grass to die. 1, 2, 3. Everyone looked at each other, thinking that this was the first time they had met with Yao Ji to negotiate terms. Would this work? Chapter 5107 Prostrating Worship. Just as everyone was drumming their hearts, the aquatic plants actually made a path for them. As demonic plants, the aquatic plants could naturally move around in a small area. Everyone was immediately overjoyed. However, what if these aquatic plants reneged on their promise? Zhuang Ruhai and the other two looked at each other and said, "Brother Dimeo, can we cross our ships? This way we can avoid being schemed against by these aquatic plants." Lan Dimeo naturally understood what they meant. They were afraid that after the Lan family's boats passed, they would not care about their lives. However, now that both sides were balancing each other, he could not refuse and immediately nodded in agreement. However, this first boat was undoubtedly the most risky. Who would go first? Yun Chujio crossed her arms as she watched. Naturally, the Lan family would not take the lead. In the end, a guard ship from the other three families took the lead and entered the passage. Everyone's heart was in their throats, afraid that something unexpected would happen. Fortunately, the aquatic plants were obviously afraid of what Yun Chujio said and did not do anything. The first ship sailed through safely. Seeing this, everyone felt a little more at ease and immediately passed through the aquatic plants. When Yun Chujio's boat passed through, the aquatic plants actually prostrated on the surface of the water, as if humans were kneeling and worshipping. Everyone clicked their tongues in wonder, thinking to themselves, not only are ghosts afraid of evildoers, it seems that the aquatic plants are also afraid of evildoers. Hei Shinjio also felt that this was the case and could not help but straighten her back a little. The Goei Batsao on the boat shook its leaves. Pui? Shameless. They were kneeling before Go Weiba, alright? Even though it was too weak to look straight at them, it was born with a noble temperament. These water plants were nothing. Soon, all the ships passed through the water plants area. Everyone heaved a long sigh of relief. They had finally arrived. Zhuang Ruhai and the other two exchanged a look. Yun Chujio's thoughts were more meticulous than all of them. It would not be bad if they formed an alliance with the Lan family temporarily. Thus, Zhuang Ruhai said hypocritically, "It's all thanks to Miss Yun that we managed to escape this time. Thank you very much." Most people would pretend to be modest when they heard such words, but Yun Chujio was obviously not an ordinary person. Senior Zhuang is right. This time it's all thanks to me. Shouldn't you guys express your gratitude? For example, give me a swamp boat or a few 100 million upper-grade spirit stones. Otherwise, if such a situation happens again, it'll be hard to say. Yun Chujio said with a smile. Zhuang Ruhai wished he could slap himself twice. If he had known that this wretched girl was so shameless, he wouldn't have said these words. But since he had already said it, what should he do? Naturally, he couldn't give them the swamp boat. That was something they could use to save their lives. Thus, the three families discussed and gritted their teeth and offered 100 million high-grade spirit stones as a gift of thanks. They thought that since the Lan family would die after leaving the 10,000-year swamp, the money would still belong to them. After receiving 100 million spirit stones, Hei Shinjio was in a good mood. She even forgave Guai Chao for his mistake. Alright, the main thing was that Guai Chao had done a meritorious deed just now. Why not forgive him? In your dreams. The medicinal powder that Yun Chujio threw into the water was only a bag of flour. Guai Chao was the one who had attracted the little black fish. Guai Chao saw Yun Chujio's expression and cursed in his heart. Using the grass to move forward, not the grass to move back. This wretched girl was too snobbish. As this fellow thought, he tried to act cute in front of the black-hearted Geo. His subtext was, "Little fairy, give me some pills to eat. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Chapter 5108. Exploring the path. In the next 2 days, although they encountered some demonic beasts, it did not cause them too much trouble. Of course, every time they encountered demonic beasts, He Xinjiu and the Lan family only had Yun Chujia's mouth open. The hard work was done by the other three families. Qi Anqing and the others were so angry that they were twitching, but they did not dare to make a scene. After all, if they wanted to safely leave this 10,000-year-old swamp, they still had to place their hopes on Yun Chujiu. Mu Zian, Qi Tianhui and the others were both angry and resentful. They wished they could strangle Yun Chujiu to death, but due to the elders of the family they could only endure it. Moreover, they were very unconvinced. They felt that the elders of the family had overestimated Yun Chujiu too much. The matter with the water plants earlier might have been a wild guess. She did not have any ability at all. Yun Chujiu loved the feeling of others looking down on her, but not being able to beat her. It was simply a wonderful feeling. Lan Dimeo also felt that his previous frustration had been released. When he saw Lan Luohan and Lan Luoshan, who were mixed in with the Zhuang family's team, he felt that Yun Chujiu, this troublemaker, was even more pleasing to the eye. On this day, everyone successfully crossed the outer area of the 10,000-year-old swamp and entered the depths of the 10,000-year-old swamp. Everyone's expressions were somewhat solemn. They all knew that the depths of the 10,000-year-old swamp was several times scarier than the outer area. The slightest carelessness could cost their lives. Yun Chujiu said to Qi Anqing, "Senior Qi, you should still have some spare swamp ships, right? Give us one and he'll spare 2 swamp ships to scout the way. Of course, you can also take out 2 swamp ships to scout the way without exchanging with us. I don't have any objections." Qi Anqing was furious. Wasn't he the one who was losing out on both sides? However, he had to take it. The Mu family and the Zhuang family might be tied to the Qi family now, but if he didn't agree they might side with the Lan family. They were originally divided into 4 boats. One of them had been sunk by the aquatic plants and now there were 3 boats. Many people had died and injured before, and now there were about 700 people. Actually, 2 boats were enough. Therefore, Qi Anqing asked the group to free up a swamp boat and gave it to Yun Chujiu. Yun Chujiu gathered the Lan family members on a boat. Although it was a little crowded, it had its advantages so she didn't have to be distracted. Moreover, the Qi family's swamp boat was much better than their boat. Whether it was speed or sturdiness, they were not on the same level. After adjusting, Yun Chujiu let out the Gowei Batsao again. After a good warning, she called out a swamp boat and let it scout ahead. Gowei Batsao was somewhat unwilling. Why did she always let it do such low-tech things? However, this fellow did not dare to resist. After all, it had caused a big disaster previously. It was better to be obedient. Moreover, it was not that there were no benefits. They could save up a small treasury. When Qi Anqing and the others saw that Yun Chujiu actually let a spiritual beast steer the swamp boat in front to scout the way, they were completely dumbfounded. Could that Gowei Batsao work? Moreover, the spiritual power of the spiritual beast would dissipate once it was exhausted, so this Gowei Batsao would not be able to hold on for long. However, it was rare for this stinky girl to be willing to contribute herself. Was this a discovery of conscience? Their question was quickly answered. Yun Chujiu said in a clear voice, "He'll have my spiritual beast demonstrate it to you. In a while, the 3 of you will take turns to send your spiritual beasts to control the swamp boat in front. Of course, if your spiritual beasts are not as smart as mine, then you can send people up. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Chapter 5109 Demonic Beasts Beyond Recognition. Qi Anqing and the others immediately fed their earlier thoughts to the dogs. They thought that she had found her conscience and was prepared to let her spiritual beast help to explore the way. It turned out that it was just a demonstration. In the end, they were the ones who had to do the hard work. Conscience. This wretched girl didn't have such a thing. Even if she was dissatisfied, she had to do it. Fortunately, they soon discovered that after the swamp boat had been activated, the Gowei Batsao only needed to correct the direction of the swamp boat from time to time. It did not have to do anything else. However, there was one thing that the Gowei Batsao was very strong. They could not do the same thing with just a few spiritual beasts. They needed at least dozens of them to do it. After discovering this, Qi Anqing and the others became more fearful of Yun Chujiu. With the swamp boat in front of them, they felt a little more confident. This way, even if there was danger, they could still get a warning in advance. It had to be said that Yun Chujiu was really full of bad ideas. After traveling for a few hours, there was no danger as expected. On the contrary, it was even calmer than the outer area. Everyone was more or less relieved. Perhaps it was just a rumor. In fact, the depths of the 10,000-year-old swamp was not that dangerous. At this moment, the water in the distance began to bubble as if it was boiling. Everyone wondered, could there be a volcano under the water? Otherwise, why did the water surface seem to be boiling? This was similar to the situation of some hot springs. Someone tested the temperature of the water with his hand and said, the water temperature did not rise. It should not be caused by the high temperature. Then how did it happen? Zhuang Ruhai looked at Yun Chujio. Why don't we let the swamp boat in front test it out? Yun Chujio frowned. We'll see first. It's better to save if we can. After all, the swamp boat is quite expensive. Zhuang Ruhai, just be stingy. Actually, on one hand, Yun Chujio was indeed stingy. On the other hand, she wanted to observe first. Suddenly, more than 100 water snake-like demon beasts jumped out from the water in front of them. Each of them was as thick as a bucket, and the short ones were more than 10 feet long. They swam quickly toward the boat. They did not swim in the water like fish. Instead, they flew close to the surface of the water as if they were flying. Their speed was extremely fast. Everyone was shocked. What the hell was this? They had never seen such aquatic demonic beasts before, and there were too many of them. The dozens of spiritual beasts on the Pathfinder ship immediately attacked the water snakes at the front. To everyone's surprise, the water snakes looked very strange, but their combat strength was not very strong. Their spiritual beasts easily killed dozens of water snakes. Qi Tianhui snorted coldly and said, so it only looks scary, but in fact, it is not able to withstand a single blow. As soon as he finished speaking, he was horrified to find that those water snakes that had already died were actually resurrected again. The most fatal thing was that the water snake that was originally cut into 2 pieces had actually turned into 2. The water snakes that were cut into 3 pieces had turned into 3. In other words, the water snakes that were cut into a few pieces would turn into a few pieces. In this way, not only did the number of water snakes not decrease, but they also increased in number, and there was no end to the number of water snakes. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Everyone was instantly terrified. They had never heard of such a demonic beast. Even if the earthworms in the secular world were cut into 2 pieces, not all of them would survive, let alone instantly become 2. The scene in front of them had completely exceeded their understanding. It was simply too terrifying. Chapter 51:10 The nine-headed strange snake. Even old Tua, who had been silent the whole time, had a change in his expression. He thought that he was knowledgeable, but he had never seen or heard of such a demonic beast before. If they continued fighting like this, not only would they not be able to escape, but they would also cause more and more water snakes to appear. In the end, it would be impossible to stop them. However, they could not attack. The teeth of those water snakes glowed with a blue light. They were definitely poisonous. If they were bitten by them, the consequences would be unimaginable. Mu Kelu said with a trembling voice, let's retreat to the periphery. These water snakes shouldn't follow us. Zhuang Ruhai pointed to the distance and said, the earth chi has already spread over. If we retreat, we will only die. At this moment, Qi Tianhui jumped and shouted, Yun Chujio, don't you have the most bad water? Think of a way. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yun Chujio couldn't be bothered with this idiot. She thought that these water snakes must have a weakness. Otherwise, they would have occupied the entire 10,000-year-old swamp. Yun Chujio observed for a while and found that not all water snakes could be resurrected after death. Those whose bodies were broken could be resurrected, but those whose heads were broken were completely dead. Seeing this, she quickly reminded everyone, blow their heads off. Blow their heads off. Attack the heads of those water snakes. Once their heads are broken, they can't be revived. At the same time, some people also realized this. Everyone immediately focused their attacks on the heads of those water snakes. Sure enough, it worked. Once their heads were broken, those water snakes would die completely. Seeing that the number of water snakes was decreasing, everyone relaxed a little. Just when everyone felt that they could breathe a sigh of relief, the surface of the water in front of them began to churn violently again. The water splashes that rose up were several zhang high. Everyone immediately had a bad premonition. Before they had the time to react, they saw a giant snake with 9 heads reveal itself. Only the upper half of the giant snake was above the water surface. Even so, it was still very huge, similar to a hill. The 9 heads groaned like babies. They lowered their heads and inhaled. Both the living water snakes and the corpses of the water snakes were swallowed by it. If it were not for the spiritual energy barrier that everyone had erected, and there were so many of them, they would have been swallowed by it as well. At this moment, Mu Kelu cried out in surprise, I remember now. This is the 9 neonate. The ancient vicious beast 9 neonate. 9 neonate. When everyone heard that the monster in front of them was the ancient vicious beast 9 neonate, their legs immediately went weak. This time they really couldn't live. What kind of terrifying existence was the ancient vicious beast? No matter what, they wouldn't be its match. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. 9 neonate? She didn't believe it. Regardless of whether it was the ancient vicious beast or the divine beast, they all ended up in a miserable state. When she met them, they were basically in the remnant soul state. There was no reason for this 9 neonate to still be alive. Moreover, if it really was the 9 neonate, would there be such a waste of time? They would probably have eaten them long ago. At this moment, Buttface, who was in the spirit beast bag, said, "Little fairy, don't listen to that old bastard's nonsense. This isn't the 9 neonate at all. The 9 neonate's level isn't comparable to the 4 great fierce beasts, and it still wants to be a demon. Later, it was eaten by Tao Tai, so this thing definitely isn't the 9 neonate." "Then what kind of demon beast is it?" Yin Chujio asked. Dog 2 glanced at Peach Blossom, who was flirting with the little dragon, and said, "It's hard to say. It might have some 9 neonates bloodline just like Peach Blossom's infatuated dog. Although it has the bloodline of the Xiao Tianquan, it's not the Xiao Tianquan." Chapter 51:11. It's not a 9 neonate. Yun Chujio's mouth twitched when she heard Buttface's words. It's already so late, but it's still jealous. That's enough. Yun Chujio couldn't be bothered with it. She said to the terrified crowd, "Although it looks like a 9 neonate, it can't be a 9 neonate. You're all stupid and idealistic. If it really was a 9 neonate, it would have left this 10,000-year-old swamp to gloat. Why would it stay here? Moreover, if it was the 9-headed snake, it would have eaten us already. Why would it shout and scare us?" Hearing that, everyone felt that what Yun Chujio said made sense. Their fear dissipated a little. As long as it wasn't the 9-headed beast, they at least had a chance of survival. At this moment, the 9-headed snake spat out 9 huge water balls and threw them at the 3 ships. The 9-headed snake's goal was not to use the water balls to kill people, but to overturn the swamp ship. As long as the swamp ship overturned, everyone would be like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. The swamp ship was violently shaken by the huge water balls. Mu Kelu and the others were on the ship that was almost overturned. They were so scared that they cried out in alarm. "What are you screaming for? It's throwing water balls. Can't you use spiritual beasts to intercept it halfway? A bunch of idiots." Yin Chujio shouted in annoyance. "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Everyone didn't have the time to argue with her now. When the water ball was about to hit them again, they were stopped by the spiritual beasts and changed their direction. The 9-headed strange snake saw that this move wasn't effective, so it directly swam towards everyone. Everyone subconsciously wanted to escape, but they also knew that even if there wasn't any threat from the earth chi behind them, they wouldn't be able to escape even if the 9-headed strange snake was so fast. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes and said, "Throw all the boats or floating things on your bodies to the surface of the water. Use those things as support points. Attack. Kill it. If it's not dead, then we will die. Fight." Everyone did not have time to think and immediately followed Yun Chujio's instructions. They threw all the boats and wooden boards to the surface of the water. Their movement techniques were light and agile. As long as they had a support point, they could rely on their spiritual power for a short period of time. At this time, the 9-headed snake had already arrived in front of them. Its 9 heads shot countless water arrows at them. The water arrows were still glowing with blue light. It was obvious that they were poisonous. Lan Dimeo and the others used the scattered support points to tangle with the 9-headed snake. Yun Chujio knew that she was a piece of trash, so she did not go forward. Instead, she jumped and cursed, "You 9-headed snake. You're so shameless you actually spat. Do you think you're a 9-headed infant? You didn't even look in the mirror. It was simply disgusting. You opened the door to disgust me. It's so disgusting. Those little snakes are all your descendants, right? Tsk, this is the first time I've seen you so shameless. You actually ate your own descendants." When the 9-headed snake heard Yun Chujio's curses, one of its heads immediately turned towards her and shot a few water arrows at her. When Elder Tua saw that the head's attention was on Yun Chujio, he immediately slapped the head. Elder Tua's cultivation was quite high. The sharp palm wind directly smashed one of the heads into pieces. The 9-headed snake let out a shrill scream. Everyone could not help but be overjoyed. It turned out that this 9-headed strange snake was not particularly powerful. As long as they worked together, they would be able to kill it very quickly. However, almost in an instant, the 9-headed strange snake grew a new head and let out a proud cry. Chapter 51:12. The weakness of the 9-headed snake. Everyone's heart sank. What was going on? Next, although everyone worked together to kill a few heads of the nine-headed snake, new heads would grow almost instantly. Although the situation was still in a stalemate, everyone's spiritual power was greatly depleted. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes and asked Buttface, "What is the weakness of the nine-headed snake?" She felt that since this giant snake had the bloodline of the nine neonate, perhaps its weakness was the same. Buttface thought for a moment and said, "The nine neonate is very difficult to deal with. The three of us have fought it before, but we were unable to kill it. However, Tao Tai easily ate it. The reason was very simple. If you want to kill the nine neonate, you have to kill its 9 heads at the same time. Otherwise it will keep growing new heads." Yun Chujio could not help but feel troubled when she heard this. It was not difficult to kill all 9 heads, but it was difficult to kill all 9 heads at the same time. This was not easy to do. Everyone's spiritual power was uneven. Moreover, since the 9-headed snake knew its weakness, even if it abandoned its pawn to protect Che, it would still save one of its heads. It was too difficult to kill all 9 heads at the same time. As expected, after Yun Chujio told everyone about the 9-headed snake's weakness, everyone had no way to kill 9 heads at the same time. Moreover, because their spiritual power had been depleted too much, many people were shot by the 9-headed snake's water arrows. The water arrows contained a lethal poison. Once it touched the skin, it would lose its life. The 9-headed snake's cry became more ferocious and sharp. All 9 heads revealed a greedy expression. Di Baiming, who was in his sleeve pocket, said to Yun Chujio, "Aren't you able to command 9 flying swords at the same time? Wait until the 9-headed snake's stamina is almost exhausted, then get everyone to distract the 9-headed snake's attention, and then cut off its heads. However, you must be fast, accurate, and ruthless. There's only an instant of opportunity, and only by surprise can you succeed." Yun Chujio's eyes lit up and she said excitedly, "Prince Charming, although you have lost your memory, you are still useful." A certain being did not want to speak. Yun Chujio immediately told everyone her thoughts. Of course, she would not say it out loud directly. After all, the 9-headed strange snake could also understand human language. This fellow gestured a few times and then said a few words in a vague manner. Mu Kelu and the others felt that Yun Chujio was most likely crazy. She had asked them to distract the attention of the 9-headed strange snake, so she had a way to kill its 9 heads? How was this possible? However, they were trying their best now. Although they felt that it was unlikely, they still began to draw the attention of the 9-headed strange snake according to what she said. Moreover, in order to make it easier for Yun Chujio to kill all 9 heads, their military force was very concentrated, so the 9-headed strange snake did not dare to scatter its spiritual power. "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Time passed quickly, and everyone's spiritual power was depleted more and more severely. Some even fell into the water due to the lack of spiritual power. Mu Kelu and the others could not help but grit their teeth. Didn't that stinky girl say that she wanted to kill the 9-headed snake's head? Kill it instead. Why were they still eating melon seeds on the deck? Could it be that they were playing with them? If that was the case, they would drag her down with them even if they died. At first, the 9-headed snake had paid a little attention to Yun Chujio because she had scolded it. Later, when it saw that she was only boasting on the deck and munching on melon seeds, it completely ignored her. Yun Chujio threw the melon seeds in her hand into the water. A ruthless look flashed across her eyes. 9 flying swords rose into the air and chopped at the 9 heads of the 9-headed snake. Chapter 51:13. Flying swords slaying snakes. Little slut number 1 and number 9 had been holding back for a long time. There was no other reason. Yun Chujio had a total of 77 to 49 flying swords, but at the moment only they could show themselves. The remaining 40 were naturally unconvinced. They were anxious to prove themselves, and slaying the 9-headed strange snake was undoubtedly the best opportunity. At this time, the weapon spirits of the immortal sword and Yun Chujio's goals were exactly the same. In a sense, they had achieved the unity of man and sword, and their power was several times stronger than usual. Therefore, the 9-headed snake was miserable. Its attention was not on Yun Chujio at all. By the time it caught a glimpse of the cold light, it was already too late. The 9 immortal swords drew a uniform arc, and the 9 heads of the 9-headed snake were cut off. The 9-headed snake did not even have time to scream before it died. The 9-headed snake's corpse fell into the water, creating huge waves and dyeing the water red. Immediately there was dead silence. Mu Kelu and the others stared at the scene in front of them with their mouths agape. Flying swords? 9 flying swords? Yun Chujio could command 9 flying swords at the same time? And she could cut off the heads of the nine-headed snake at the same time? This was too terrifying. Even though she was able to succeed because they had used up a lot of the nine-headed snake's stamina and also because they had restrained her, none of them were able to do it. Qi Tianhui, Mu Zian, and the others had ugly expressions on their faces. They had always thought that Yun Chuzhou only had a belly full of bad water and did not have any real abilities. But now they had to admit that not only was this Yun Chuzhou not useless, she was even more powerful than them. Even though her spiritual power level was not as high as theirs, if they were to face her 9 flying swords, there was no way they could survive. Mu Kelu, Qi Anqing, and Zhuang Ruhai looked at each other. They could not let this Yun Chuzhou stay. If she grew up, how could they survive? However, even though they had the intention to kill, they still hoped that Yun Chuzhou would bring them out of the 10,000-year-old swamp. Naturally, they would not reveal it. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Xingjiu was not a fool. She naturally understood that the 3 families were prepared to kill the donkey in the future. However, they were still useful. It was still uncertain who would be the donkey when the time came. While Mu Kelu and the others were still in a daze, this guy shamelessly put the corpse of the 9-headed snake and its head into his storage ring. Mu Kelu and the others were so angry that they almost died. Putting aside how much the corpse of the 9-headed snake was worth, it was mainly because it was very rare. Whether it was used to refine weapons or pills, it was a good thing. But now this stupid girl had taken it first. Moreover, they also knew that the thing in her hands was definitely. If they didn't get it back, they could only blame their bad luck. Everyone simply fixed themselves up and continued to move forward. Yun Chuzhou also asked them to keep the wooden boards and basins. Perhaps they could still use them in the future, so they still followed her instructions. At this time, the sky had already darkened. Everyone raised their vigilance and continued to move forward. The first half of the night was safe and sound, but in the second half of the night, Yun Chuzhou was woken up by someone. Oh my God. It's so beautiful. It's beautiful, but I'm afraid it's not a good thing. This is a 10,000-year-old swamp. Maybe it's something dangerous. That makes sense. What exactly are those things? They look like algae or something. Yun Chuzhou yawned and went to the deck to look into the distance. She saw the surface of the water in the distance flickering with a faint blue luster. Under the night sky, it was exceptionally beautiful and strange. Chapter 51:14 Go Weiba was furious. Yun Chuzhou thought for a moment and said, "Stop moving forward and let the Pathfinder ship go over to take a look." Now that this fellow's words were absolutely effective, Mu Kelu and the others immediately let the spiritual beast control the Pathfinder ship to sail towards that area of water. To everyone's surprise, the Pathfinder ship sailed past that area of water unscathed without the slightest abnormality. Yun Chuzhou narrowed her eyes. Was there really nothing fishy going on? She didn't believe it. Mu Kelu and the others didn't believe it either, but what should they do now? They couldn't stop moving forward, right? Let's take a closer look, Yun Chuzhou said. Everyone gradually approached the water. However, at this moment, the faint blue light turned into countless faint blue light spots and pounced toward them. Everyone finally saw clearly that the so-called faint blue light was actually a type of aquatic demonic insect with wings. Although the 10,000-year-old swamp forbade flying, they were still able to fly about 30 feet above the water surface and pounce towards the ship where everyone was. Yun Chuzhou roared, "Raise the spiritual energy barrier. Release the spiritual beast. Quick." Everyone had experienced some battles, so their reactions were still fast. They immediately followed Yun Chuzhou's instructions and activated the spiritual energy shield while releasing the spiritual beasts. However, to their horror, they discovered that the dark blue demonic insects could actually corrode the spiritual beasts and spiritual energy shield. As there were too many of the blue demonic insects, the spiritual beasts that they released were all corroded, and the demonic insects began to corrode everyone's spiritual energy shield. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Kacha, one of the guard's spiritual energy barrier was corroded, and several blue demonic insects immediately pounced on the guard's body. Almost in an instant, the guard disappeared. On the deck, other than a storage ring, nothing else was corroded. The fear in everyone's hearts could no longer be described with words. This kind of fear was even stronger than the 9-headed strange snake they had encountered before. After all, they still had the ability to fight back against the 9-headed strange snake. However, these demonic insects were too strange. They did not even know what they were and what method they used to corrode their spiritual power. Although Yun Chuzhou was also very surprised, she still maintained her composure. She knew that this group of demonic insects definitely had a bug king or queen. If they wanted to escape, they had to capture the leader first. However, Yun Chujio did not find a bug king or queen after scanning for a long time. It was very likely that the bug king or queen was hiding under the water somewhere to command these subordinates. Then the question was, should she dive underwater? This decision was undoubtedly very risky. Putting aside whether these demonic insects would dive underwater to attack her, this was the depths of the 10,000-year-old swamp. Danger lurked everywhere below. If she was not careful, she might sink into the mud and lose her life. What Yun Chujio did not know was that while she was hesitating, the Gowei Batsao on the ship was angry. There was no other reason. There were a few blind demonic insects that wanted to corrode it. Gowei Bakeo's short temper immediately flared up. Damn it, it actually wanted to snatch its little treasury? In order to save these little treasury, how many grievances did it suffer? It could not tolerate the unbearable grass, it was simply courting death. At the same time, it sensed Yun Chujio's thoughts and shook its leaves. Was it the king of insects or the queen of insects? Alright, I'll leave this matter to it. I wanted to make these damn insects pay the price. Hence, Gowei Batsao whipped the few demonic insects that wanted to corrode it away and dived into the water. Everyone's attention was on the demonic insects, and with Gowei Batsao lying on the boat, no one noticed it at all. Chapter 51:15 As Gowei Batsao dived into the water, turned into a purple shadow and swam ahead quickly. It soon found that there were many algae growing under the surface of the water in the distance, and many blue demonic insects were coming in and out. It thought, it seems that the nest is in the algae, the darn insect king or queen must be in there. This fellow quickly approached a cluster of aquatic plants that had the highest density of demonic insects. Those demonic insects also discovered Gowei Batsao and surrounded it, wanting to attack it. Gowei Batsao immediately changed its body size to a foot tall and beat it with its leaves. Damn it. I told you to have designs on my little treasury, I'll beat you to death. I'll beat. With Gowei Batsao as the center, it instantly formed a vortex. Not to mention those demonic insects, even the surrounding algae were whipped away by this fellow. These demonic insects relied on the ability to corrode spiritual power, but the body of Gowei Batsao was impervious to all poisons. This so-called corrosive spiritual power was like a joke in front of it. If it wasn't for the 2 drops of liquid that saved debeaming, this fellow would have been even more smug. Gowei Batsao struggled for a while and only stopped when it realized that there were no more demonic insects around. It discovered that there were many tiny insect eggs in the water and was delighted. It seemed that this was the nest of those insects. At this moment, Gowei Batsao discovered a demonic insect that was obviously much bigger than the other demonic insects and was drilling into the mud. It thought to itself, it seems that this is either the insect king or the insect queen, the culprit behind the theft of its small treasury. I'll kill it. Gowei Ba thought of this and used the grass leaves to wrap up that demonic insect. It didn't expect that the demonic insect was so fast that it couldn't be caught. Gowei Ba was so angry. Run, I told you to run. If I don't kill you today, I won't be called Gowei Batsao. This fellow began to use the grass leaves to dig the mud, but the bottom of the swamp was full of mud. How could it be so easy to find that demonic insect? This guy could not find it even after searching for a long time, so he was so angry that he was twitching. At this time, countless demonic insects flew into the water. Apparently, they had received a distress message from the demonic insect. Gowei Ba was powerful, but he could not withstand the number of those insects. This guy had no choice but to run away, like a wisp of smoke. However, this guy did not lose to grass, so he put his hands on his waist and cursed in his heart, "Damn it, you guys are lucky. Good grass does not fight with insects. Let's wait and see." At the same time, Yun Chujio and the others were stunned to find that the demonic insects actually retreated without a fight. Almost in an instant, they all returned to their original path and disappeared. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. What was going on? Yun Chujio thought to herself, could it be that something happened to their demon king or demon queen? It was really the blessing of God. The strange grass in her dantian was twitching. What god? Was Guaichao? Was Guaichao? Was Guaichao? Was Gowei Ba doing? Although Yun Chujio was surprised that the strange grass in her dantian was so excited, she did not have the time to pay attention to Guaichao. She said to the crowd, no matter what the reason is, we should take this opportunity to pass through. What if those demonic insects come out of the water again? Mu Kelu asked worriedly. I guess that their sudden retreat should be due to problems with their queen insects or their queen insects. They won't appear again for a while. Moreover, they should have a living area. As long as we leave their range, we should be able to get rid of them, Yun Chujio explained. The Guai Chao in her dantian shook its leaves happily, indicating for Yun Chujio to let it out. Yun Chujio said impatiently with her spiritual sense, "Don't come out and cause trouble. Stay there obediently." Chapter 51:16 The aggrieved Go-Wei-Batsao was already beyond furious. Did this wretched girl know that if it wasn't for Go-Wei-Ba, they would still be surrounded by those demonic insects? Alright, she didn't know. Who asked Go-Wei-Ba to do a good deed without leaving a name? It wanted to leave a name, but it was afraid that its little treasury would be discovered. If that happened, it wouldn't be able to sneak out in the future. Therefore, even though it was sullen, it could only endure it. It cursed Hei Shinjio in its heart. What ingratitude! What ingrate! Whatever Yun Chujio had scolded it, it had returned it to her. Yun Chujio did not know that Guai Chao was scolding her. At this moment, she was fully alert as she commanded the 3 ships to pass through the area controlled by the demonic insects. At first, there was no reaction. After a while, countless demonic insects flew out. The demonic insects attached themselves to the spiritual energy shield of everyone and continuously corroded their spiritual energy. Everyone remembered Yun Chujio's words and did not fight back. They only raised their spiritual energy shield and tried to force their way through the water. A few demonic insects noticed the Go-Wei-Batsao on the ship, but they did not dare to attack it. They were afraid that this thing would go after their leader again. Go-Wei-Batsao snorted. At least they knew what was good for them. Otherwise, even if it did not want the last bit of money, it would still take care of them. Everyone used a lot of spirit energy to strengthen the spirit energy shield. Fortunately, after traveling for a distance, the demonic insects left helplessly. Everyone sat on the deck. The waves of crisis were really unbearable for them. Mu Kelu sighed. The 10,000-year-old swamp really lives up to its name. We've just entered the depths of the 10,000-year-old swamp, and we've already encountered these strange things. I'm afraid the situation inside will be even more terrifying. Qianqing echoed, "That's right. There will definitely be dangers ahead, but we can only continue forward. Otherwise we'll die from the Earth's Qi. We're really unlucky this time. We have encountered Earth dragons before, but we have never heard of Earth Qi chasing after people. How unlucky." The speaker did not mean it, but the listener meant it. Hei Shinjio inexplicably felt a little guilty. Were these people all implicated by her? Or were they all implicated by the gigolo? Although the gigolo said that he was coming for him, there were no gigolo in the Taotai Ghost City and the Flying Flower Island. Didn't she also attract a natural disaster? Damn it, if he didn't want to kill her with heavenly lightning, he would use a natural disaster to deal with her. Who did she provoke? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. However, speaking of the earth energy, Hei Shinjio couldn't help but wonder. The earth energy had obviously spread to the 10,000-year-old swamp. Why didn't she see those demon beasts running around in panic? However, this guy understood after thinking for a while. The demon beasts in the swamp weren't like the demon beasts on land, which would run away in all directions when encountering a natural disaster. This was because once they left the 10,000-year-old swamp, it was basically a dead end. Since that was the case, it was better to leave it to fate. After all, the earth energy would not exterminate their species. In addition, these aquatic demon beasts had a strict sphere of influence. If they entered the sphere of influence of other demon beasts, they would also die. Therefore they looked no different from usual. At this moment, the sky was already beginning to brighten. Yun Chujio looked at the rising sun and thought of a sentence. No matter what happened today, the sun would rise the next day as usual. It was not a big deal. This fellow fed himself some chicken soup and immediately became lively again. What could not be passed was the difficulty. What was past was tempered. A new day had begun. Chapter 51:17 Blood-sucking blanket. After eating breakfast, Yun Chujio lay on the recliner and went back to sleep. Everyone was already used to this. Lan Dimeo had once reprimanded her, "You're so young, why are you so lazy?" Not only was she not ashamed, she even said with conviction, "I can't help it, I'm tired. Those good ideas were all thought of by me after putting in so much effort, how can I not be tired?" When everyone heard this, although they felt that she was being unreasonable, they let her be. Who asked her to be so smart? Go-Wei-Batsao on the boat was in high spirits. This fellow never knew what it meant to be tired. From time to time, this fellow would secretly dive into the water and toss about. Since it was small in size, it would not be discovered. However, this fellow's spiritual energy was quickly almost used up, and he could not help but feel a little worried. How could he get the stinky girl to let him out? It would be best if it was a group of demonic beasts or something so that the stinky girl could let him out. How about he do something to attract some demonic beasts over? This fellow thought about it and gave up on this plan. If it backfired and played the stinky girl to death, he would have no place to hide. At this moment, someone on the ship exclaimed, "What's that in front of us? Why does it look like a big woolen blanket?" "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Goei Batsao immediately perked up. It really could do whatever it wanted. It was going to make more money from its little treasury. Compared to this fellow who only wanted chaos, the people on the boat were full of bewilderment. Hei Shinjio was also woken up. She stood up and looked into the distance. There was a big gray object floating on the surface of the water in the distance. Looking from afar, it really looked like a woolen blanket. However, even if she used her heel to think, she knew that there was no wool blanket in this 10,000-year-old swamp. Could it be moss or algae? Yun Chujio thought for a moment and said, "Stop moving forward and send a scout boat to test it out." However, at this moment, the wool blanket moved. The wool blanket that was originally flat curled up and the waves rolled. Everyone could vaguely see that the wool blanket seemed to be carrying a huge demon beast. What made everyone even more terrified was that the wool blanket was actually a living creature. They could vaguely see that its abdomen was filled with suckers, firmly sucking on the demonic beast. A moment later, the huge demonic beast's corpse floated on the surface of the water, and then sank to the bottom of the water. Mu Keela's voice was a little shaky as he said, "Strange, why didn't the monster that looked like the wool blanket eat that corpse?" Zhuang Ruhai said with a pale face, "If my guess is correct, the monster that looked like a woolen blanket lived on fresh blood. It only absorbed the monster's blood, so it threw the corpse away." Hearing this, everyone's hair stood on end. Blood-sucking? What the hell was this thing? It was too terrifying. Why was this 10,000-year-old swamp full of monsters? Not good. That blood-sucking carpet is swimming towards us. Qianqing cried out in alarm. Everyone immediately panicked. Even if they used their spiritual energy shields, it would not stop the monster from using its suction cups. It would easily capsize their boat. At that time it would really be a dead end. Everyone did not care much. They quickly released their spiritual beasts, trying to block the blood-sucking carpet from approaching. The blood-sucking carpet dragged several spirit beasts into the water. Everyone's spirit beast's attack power in the water was greatly weakened, so they were not a threat to the blood-sucking carpet at all. The blood-sucking carpet was getting closer and closer to everyone's ship. Chapter 51:18 The weakness of the vampire carpet. Just when everyone was at a loss, no one expected that the vampire carpet would suddenly stretch out 2 arms and legs and flip a ship into the water. In an instant, a few people were wrapped up by the vampire carpet and quickly became dried-up corpses. They didn't even have the chance to scream. Everyone hurriedly used all kinds of attacks to pin down the blood-sucking carpet. Only then did the people who fell into the water take the opportunity to climb onto the remaining 2 ships. Qi Tianhui was also among the people who fell into the water. His face was pale. He roared at Yun Chujio hysterically, "Yun Chujio, aren't you smart? Think of a way. Are you going to watch us die?" Yun Chujio was so angry that she laughed. This Qi Tianhui was most likely a pig's brain. She was also on the ship, so she naturally had to think of everything. Otherwise she would also die, okay. However, she really could not think of any good ideas. This blood-sucking carpet was flat and very large. Regardless of whether it was a spiritual beast or all kinds of spiritual attacks, their effects on it were very limited. In addition, it had suction cups and tentacles, making it very difficult to deal with. If they were on land, they would naturally not be afraid of it. The bad thing was that they were in a swamp, so they were greatly restricted. Yun Chujio observed for a long time, but she still could not find the weakness of the blood-sucking carpet. However, she knew that the blood-sucking carpet definitely had a weakness, but what was its weakness? Before Yun Chujio could think of anything, the blood-sucking carpet had already stretched out its limbs towards her boat, trying to flip it over. Fortunately, old Tua used all his strength to swing his palm and hit one of the limbs to the side, thus escaping the disaster. Goei Batsao on the side of the boat had been watching the show. This guy had almost made the little treasury proud, so even if he wanted to help, he couldn't. This guy originally wanted to take the initiative to ask for a fight, but when he thought of Yun Chujio's attitude towards him, he immediately dismissed the idea. He wanted to wait for the stupid girl to take the initiative to ask him for a fight, so that he wouldn't think that Go Weiba was easy to bully. Yun Chujio's forehead was already covered with fine beads of sweat. It wasn't that she was afraid but that she was anxious. If they still couldn't think of a way, they would all be sucked dry by this blood-sucking carpet. This damn blood-sucking carpet was as disgusting as the leeches in the secular world. Yun Chujio thought of leeches and suddenly had a thought. She remembered that leeches were afraid of salt because leeches did not have skin. Once they touched enough salt, they would be dehydrated and die. Could this blood-sucking carpet also be afraid of salt? She was desperate. She took out a basin of salt and threw it at the blood-sucking carpet. The blood-sucking carpet was stretching out its arms and legs, ready to attack the ship Mukelu and the others were on. When the salt fell on it, it immediately retracted its arms and legs and dived into the water in a panic. Yun Chujio was overjoyed and shouted at the crowd, "It's afraid of salt. It's afraid of salt. If it comes out of the water again, use salt to wave it." "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." The crowd also saw the scene just now, but after hearing Yun Chujio's words, their faces did not show much joy. The reason was very simple. Their storage rings only had a few kilograms of salt at most, and some only had a few taels. After all, salt was only a seasoning. Who would bring a lot of salt with them for no reason? Yun Chujio seemed to have seen through their thoughts. She immediately threw more than 10 sacks of salt to Mukelu and the others and said in a heroic manner, "Don't worry. I have plenty here. As much as you want." Chapter 51:19 gave me an explanation. Everyone was surprised and happy. Naturally, they were happy that with the salt, they were not afraid of the blood-sucking carpet anymore. They were shocked that Yun Chujio brought so much salt for no reason. How would they know that this fellow cherished his life the most? To be on the safe side, he had even prepared hundreds of sacks for the sand, not to mention the salt. They didn't know if the blood-sucking carpet had heard Yun Chujio's words, but it didn't show itself again after diving into the water. They didn't think too much about it. Qi Yanqing took out another swamp boat, and they continued to move forward as fast as they could. Seeing that the blood-sucking carpet didn't show itself again, Yun Chujio stingy put the sacks of salt back into her storage ring. What a joke. She had spent money to buy all this. Mukelu and the others were already used to her stingy behavior, so no one said anything. Instead, Qi Tianhui said with a strange tone, "Yun Chujio, since you knew that the blood-sucking carpet was afraid of salt, why didn't you say it earlier? Did you deliberately want to harm the people of our three families?" Yun Chujio's face suddenly darkened, and her eyes revealed some killing intent as she said coldly, "First, I also suddenly remembered that this blood-sucking carpet is somewhat similar to the leeches of the secular world, so I thought of using salt to restrain it. Second, if I wanted to harm the people of your three families, you would have already become corpses. Third, you have repeatedly provoked me with words. I was thinking of the big picture and didn't argue with you. I didn't expect you to become even worse. Senior Qi, if you do not give me a satisfactory explanation, we can only go our separate ways." Qi Yanqing was so angry that he slapped Qi Tianhui twice. "This idiot. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Yun Chujio had played an absolute role in their escape. If they were separated from her, would they still have a chance of survival? Qi Yanqing's 2 slaps were merciless. Qi Tianhui's mouth instantly started to bleed. He shouted, "Grandfather, you actually helped that bitch beat me? I am your biological grandson." Qi Yanqing saw that he was unrepentant and actually called Yun Chujio a slut. He was so angry that he kicked him twice. Finally, he simply said to his subordinates, "Tie him up and gag his mouth so that he doesn't spout nonsense." Immediately, a guard tied Qi Tianhui up and stuffed a rag into his mouth. Only then did Qi Yanqing say to Yun Chujio, "Miss Yun, do you think this punishment is satisfactory?" Yun Chujio snorted coldly, "Up until now, he hasn't felt that he was wrong and he hasn't apologized to me. However, I'm a kind-hearted person, so I won't argue with him." Qi Yanqing was about to heave a sigh of relief when he heard Yun Chujio say, "However, if we let him off just like this, what if others learn from him? How about this, you compensate me with 100 million upper-grade spirit stones for the mental damage, and this matter will be considered over. Otherwise you guys go your own way, we'll go our own way and we'll part ways here." Qi Yanqing was so angry that he was twitching. 100 million upper-grade spirit stones. Why didn't you rob them? Previously, the three families had already given her 100 million upper-grade spirit stones as a thank-you gift, and now they actually wanted to blackmail the Qi family? They were truly insatiable. Although Qi Yanqing was extremely angry, he didn't dare to turn hostile. His heart turned a few times and then he said, "Miss Yun, it's not that I don't agree. It's just that I came out in a hurry and didn't bring that many spiritual stones." Yun Chujio's eyes flashed. "Oh? How many spiritual stones do you have on you? Only 1 million left. Qianqing didn't even want to give this 1 million, but he was afraid that Yun Chujio would break up, so he could only say with a pained expression. Chapter 51:20 A certain person who was in a bad mood. Alright, 1 million then. Transfer it to me. Yun Chujio said. Qianqing immediately transferred 1 million high-grade spirit stones to Yun Chujio. He felt that this matter should be considered over. Who would have thought that Yun Chujio would say, the remaining 99 million should be used as an IOU? Qianqing, even though he was unwilling, Qianqing still gritted his teeth and made an IOU. He hated her in his heart. After all, after leaving this 10,000-year-old swamp, this wretched girl would lose her life. This IOU was useless. After Qianqing gave the IOU to Yun Chujio, he was so angry that he kicked Qi Tianhui twice. It was all because of this vile creature. Yun Chujio was in a good mood after receiving another sum of money. She began to leisurely wash the hot pot. When the people of the Lan family saw what she used to wash the hot pot, they were all dumbfounded. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Isn't this an alchemy furnace? Previously, she used this alchemy furnace to refine detoxification pills for them. Why did she use it to wash the hot pot now? Yun Chujio ignored them and smilingly invited Elder Tua and Lan Dimeo to eat together. The two of them were not as big-hearted as her, so they both refused. However, Lan Luofang came over and said, Little Jiu, it's boring to eat alone. I'll eat with you. Yun Chujio looked at her meaningfully. This guy was getting more and more shameless. Compared to Yun Chujio's good mood, the Gowei Batsao on the boat was very worried. She originally thought that Yun Chujio would beg it to help, but in the end, the other party solved the problem with a basin of salt and completely ignored it. If it had known earlier, it would have volunteered. Perhaps it had already accumulated a lot of small coffers. What a miscalculation. Hurry up and bring another powerful demonic beast. This way it could accumulate a small coffer. Hei Shinjio naturally did not know of this fellow's sinister thoughts. She was eating enthusiastically. After this fellow had eaten and drunk his fill, he laid down on the recliner in satisfaction. He felt too happy. In fact, sometimes happiness was that simple. After surviving a disaster, a hot pot would make people so happy that they wanted to cry. This guy was cooking chicken soup for the soul in his heart while taking an afternoon nap with his eyes closed. Before falling asleep, she felt as if she had forgotten something. However, sleepiness struck her, so she did not think about it carefully and fell asleep in a daze. A certain someone in his sleeve pocket was so angry that he gritted his teeth. This ugly girl did not care about his life anymore. She had forgotten to feed him again. He had not eaten 3 meals. In fact, in the past, when Yun Chujio had forgotten to feed him, a certain someone would remind her. However, he was in a bad mood now and did not say anything in a fit of anger. Previously, when they met the 9-headed strange snake, Di Biming reminded Yun Chujio to kill all 9 heads at the same time. Yun Chujio said, Prince Charming, although you have lost your memory, you are still useful. At that time, a certain god felt a little unhappy. What did he mean by useful? Was he that useless in the ugly girl's heart? Yes, he admitted that he was indeed a little weaker now, but wasn't it because he was injured? Otherwise, why would he be so useless? Previously, when Buttface told him about the past, the ugly girl was very respectful and gentle to him. But now, she didn't take him seriously at all. If she didn't starve him, she would throw him into a wine jar. It was simply torture. Maybe she didn't like him anymore because he had become weak. That must be the case. The more he thought about it, the more difficult it became for a certain amnesiac snake. It also turned its grief and anger into motivation and began to cultivate without sleep or rest. He thought that when he recovered his strength, he would definitely make the ugly girl cry and kneel in front of him to repent. Chapter 5121 How busy are you? Yun Chujio slept until sunset. She stretched and stood up. Elder Tua saw that she had woken up and said with a serious expression, Little Jio, I'm afraid we're in big trouble. Yun Chujio was stunned. Elder Tua had always been quiet and calm. What exactly happened? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Elder Tua, what's wrong? Elder Tua pointed at the water and said, I found that the water level is getting lower and lower. Elder Tua did not continue, but Yun Chujio understood what he meant. There were 2 kinds of swamps in the Chongshao continent. One was a swamp, the top was fresh water and the bottom was mud. The other was a swamp. It was all mud with only a few small puddles. Now that the water level was getting lower and lower, the depths of this 10,000-year-old swamp was most likely a swamp. There was very little water in the swamp, and it was simply not enough to support the swamp boat. Not to mention whether there were any powerful demon beasts inside. Even if there were no demon beasts, they would not be able to pass through. Mu Kelu and the others also noticed this, and everyone was frowning. Even though they were cultivators, the swamp was too terrifying, and there was simply no way to break through it. Yun Chujio frowned and thought for a long time, but she couldn't think of any solution. She found an excuse and went to the back of the cabin. She asked the small silver snake in her sleeve quietly, "Prince Charming, do you have any good ideas?" A certain venerable who was cultivating hard snorted, "I'm so weak now, how can I have any ideas?" Yun Chujio thought about the venerable's words and felt that something was wrong. Why did she feel a little sour? This guy blinked his eyes and then realized that he had not fed the little silver snake for quite a few meals. This guy suddenly felt a little guilty. Actually, it was not her fault. After encountering so many dangers, she did not have the time to feed him. Moreover, he was not a fool. Would he not remind her when he was hungry? He was really stupid. Yun Chujio immediately took out 2 meat buns and stuffed them into her sleeve pocket. She said with a smile, "My idol, I was so busy that I forgot to bring you food." "I'm sorry?" A certain someone snorted coldly, "Yes, you're so busy. You're busy eating hot pot. You're busy sleeping." Upon hearing that, He Xingjiu felt even more guilty. Yes, she had eaten hot pot with Lan Luofeng previously, but she didn't think of feeding the pretty boy. No wonder he spoke so sourly. This guy had the principle of admitting his mistake and changing it. He said slyly, "My idol, I was wrong. I'll definitely change it in the future. Besides, I forgot. Why didn't you remind me?" A certain someone naturally wouldn't tell her what he was thinking. He snorted and didn't say anything. He Xingjiu didn't know that a certain someone was angry not only because she forgot to feed him, but also because she felt that he had calmed down. So, she went back to the main topic. "Prince Charming, the swamp ahead is most likely a swamp. The swamp boat is definitely useless. How can we pass through it?" Although Di Biming was angry, he still knew the severity of the situation. He thought for a moment and said, "The swamp might not be a swamp. Maybe there is a hard ground. Let's see the specific situation first." Yun Chujio nodded. Since she could not think of any good ideas, she would just have to deal with it. After talking about the serious matter, He Xingjiu was about to tease a certain lord when there was a commotion outside. Yun Chujio frowned and quickly walked to the deck. She quickly understood the reason for the commotion. Because the water level had dropped, the swamp ship could no longer move forward. Chapter 51-22 Swamp, it's over. We're really dead now. There's a swamp in front of us, we'll die if we go in. I'd rather wait here to be swallowed by the earth chi than go forward. After all, if the earth chi is swallowed, we'll die directly and we'll suffer less. It's better to die than to stay alive. What if the swamp isn't that deep? Everyone was discussing among themselves, and their faces were filled with panic. At this moment, the sky had already darkened. After a discussion, everyone decided to stay where they were and make their plans after daybreak. At night, everyone heard the roars of beasts coming from the quagmire in front of them from time to time, and they felt that there was no way to survive. That night, no one slept well except He Xingjiu. This guy's idea was very simple. Since he couldn't think of any good ideas, he might as well have a good sleep. When the sky was getting bright, He Xingjiu was pulled up by Lan Dimeo. "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Don't sleep. The earth aura is getting closer and closer. What should we do?" Lan Dimeo shouted anxiously. He completely forgot that he was the leader. He did not know when it started, but Yun Chujio had become his backbone. Yun Chujio rubbed her eyes and looked into the distance. Last night, because the light was relatively dim, she could not see the situation in front of her clearly. Now that she looked at it, her heart was even colder. The swamp in front of her stretched as far as the eye could see. Other than some small hard ground, the rest were all swamps. There were some plants that were unique to the swamp growing in the swamp. They could also survive in the swamp. From afar, the swamp was decorated with colorful plants. Although it looked beautiful, it was full of killing intent. Once a person stepped on it, they would be swallowed by the mud. Occasionally, one could see some swamp demon beasts poking their heads out. Their eyes were filled with greed and desire as they looked at the crowd. It made people shudder. Yun Chujio frowned. If there were no beasts in the swamp, she could use some lighter wooden planks to barely pass through. However, there were beasts in the swamp. This plan would not work, because those beasts could easily flip over the wooden planks. At that time they could only become their food. When the crowd saw Yun Chujius frown, they were even more uncertain. It was over. They were really dead now. As time passed, everyone became more and more anxious due to their panic. Someone tried to poke the swamp in front of them with a bamboo pole, wanting to see how deep it was. In the end, the conclusion was bottomless. This time, everyone became even more terrified. Yun Chujio knew that they could not delay any longer. She gritted her teeth and said, "Do you see it? The hard ground is about 2,000 feet away from us. We can throw some wooden boards down and use it as a support point to cross." Mu Kelu hesitated and said, "But if that's the case, we won't be able to turn back. If those demonic beasts besiege us, I'm afraid we'll be doomed." Yun Chujio nodded. "You're right. But now we have no other choice. If we delay any longer, we'll be swallowed by the earth chi." After hearing Yun Chujio's words, everyone split into two factions. One faction insisted on following Yun Chujio's instructions, while the other faction felt that it was better to stay where they were. The earth chi might not really come and they might not even lose their lives. Everyone has their own aspirations and cannot be forced. If you want to follow me, then follow my instructions. Yun Chujio glanced at everyone and said. The Lan family naturally listened to Yun Chujio and immediately threw some large wooden planks onto the swamp. Chapter 51-23 Your little cutie is still here. Mu Kelu and the others were in a dilemma. Should they follow or not? Chi Tianhui had regained his freedom and immediately said, "Grandfather, don't listen to Yun Chujio. She is courting death. Even if we can successfully reach the hard ground in front, we will not be able to walk out of this swamp." Qi Anqing ignored him and looked at Mu Kelu and Zhuang Ruhai. "What do you two think?" Zhuang Ruhai gritted his teeth. "We'll definitely die if we stay here. Why don't we give it a try? After all, that Yun Chujio is full of tricks. Who knows, she might come up with some other good ideas." Mu Kelu thought for a moment and said, "I agree with Brother Zhuang. Once the earth chi arrives, we'll definitely die. Since that's the case, we might as well follow that Yun Chujio." Qi Anqing saw the two of them and nodded. "All right, then we will follow them." After the three of them discussed, they followed the Lan family's method and began to throw wooden planks into the swamp to act as support points. Qi Tianhui's eyes were red as he said, "Grandfather, don't be stupid. If you go, you will be throwing your life away. Anyway, I will not leave the swamp ship." Qi Anqing looked at him deeply and then said to the crowd, "If you're willing to follow, then follow. If you're not, then stay." Mu Kelu and Zhuang Ruhai also said the same thing. Life and death were determined by fate, and it all depended on one's own luck. When the crowd was almost done tossing the wooden boards, Yun Chujio said, "Those demonic beasts have been eyeing us like tigers watching their prey. Therefore we can't go blindly. We have to strategize. We have to move forward according to the difference in cultivation level. This way, once those demonic beasts attack, those with higher cultivation level can protect those with lower cultivation level. We have to set up a spiritual energy barrier throughout the entire journey to avoid being attacked. Also, don't follow closely, lest the wooden boards can't bear the weight." Yun Chujio looked at Elder Tuo and said, "Elder Tuo, your cultivation level is the highest. Would you be willing to be the first to go?" Yun Chujio handed him a lot of wooden boards after Elder Tuo agreed. Because the wooden boards that were thrown by the others could not be thrown so far, he needed to throw some wooden boards as a supporting point as he moved forward. After the discussion was over, Elder Tuo took the lead to jump down from the swamp boat. He tapped on a wooden board with the tip of his foot and his body instantly moved to another wooden board. After crossing two more planks, he threw the plank in his hand to the front as a support point, and then smoothly jumped onto the hard ground. "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." With Hunchback as a demonstration, everyone immediately jumped onto the hard ground in the order they had discussed. The swamp demon beasts did not come over to attack. Clearly they were still in the wait-and-see stage. Moreover, they felt that it was not a bad thing to let everyone jump onto the hard ground. It would be more convenient for them to hunt. Qi Anqing looked at Qi Tianhui again. "Tianhui, are you really going to stay here?" Qi Tianhui saw that everyone had successfully arrived at the hard ground. He also saw that the earth aura in the distance was getting closer and closer. He gritted his teeth and said, "Grandfather, I'll go with you." Qi Anqing nodded and let Qi Tianhui follow behind him. This way he could also take care of him. Yun Chujio watched coldly from the side. Not to mention anything else, this Qi Anqing was really good to Qi Tianhui. She wanted to take advantage of her grandfather. It had been a few years since she last saw him. She wondered if he was doing well. Chi Tianhui changed his mind, and the people who were supposed to stay hesitated. People always followed the crowd. In the end, they followed Yun Chujio and the others to the hard ground. Before Yun Chujio left, she did not forget to put away the swamp boat. The Gowei Batsao on the side of the boat was afraid of being exposed, so it jumped into the water. In the end, she could only watch as Yun Chujio walked on the wooden board like a swallow. The messy Gowei Batsao in the water. Hey, did you forget something? Your little cutie is still here. Chapter 51-24. It was the little cutie Gowei Batsao was already numb to being abandoned, because it was now a nameless little treasury. This guy decided to rely on himself, so he swam towards the hard ground where everyone temporarily settled down. In fact, the word swim was not very accurate, because this guy complained that the mud was too dirty, so he used the grass leaves as small wings to glide from the colorful plants to the hard ground. The colorful swamp plants gave the Gowei Batsao a good cover. In addition, everyone's attention was not here, so the Gowei Batsao glided smoothly to the hard ground. In order not to be dumped again, this fellow spent a long time before carefully lying on Hei Xinjia's hair. Yun Chujio naturally did not know about this. Her mind was now focused on how to cross the swamp. She knew that although the swamp demonic beasts did not attack just now, if they moved again, the demonic beasts would definitely take action. They did not need to expend too much effort. As long as they dragged people into the swamp, they would be able to enjoy it effortlessly. The others had also thought of this and turned their gazes towards Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio looked at the demon beasts that were eyeing the swamp. She thought to herself, why don't we capture a few demon beasts to play with? With them as guards, although they could not solve the problem completely, they could at least buy time. However, these demon beasts were not easy to capture. They had to think of a way. Lan Dimeo and the others saw that Yun Chujio did not say anything, so they urged her anxiously, what should we do next? Should we stay here? Yun Chujio blinked her eyes, no rush, I will feed the demonic beasts first, then we will go over. Everyone was angry and happy. Fat. The demonic beasts were the most greedy, and there were so many of them, how could she feed them? Yun Chujio did not care about their reaction. She took out a piece of demonic beast meat and shouted at the swamp demonic beasts in the distance. Hey little cuties, Mrs. Meat here, come here quickly. The swamp demonic beasts were dumbfounded. This stupid girl, was she crazy? The leaves of the Gowei Batsao on Yun Chujio's hair shook. Bah! How could they be called little cuties? She was the real little cutie, alright? Yun Chujio smacked her lips a few more times, then threw the demonic beast meat with all her might. The place where the demonic beast meat fell was still some distance away from the swamp demonic beasts. The swamp demonic beasts did not understand what Yun Chujio's intention was, so none of them made a move. Seeing this, Chi Tianhui snorted and said, save it. Those demonic beasts are not idiots. How could they eat the demonic beast meat you threw? Yun Chujio glanced at him. Then how about I throw you down? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chi Tianhui was angry and scared. He was about to refute, but he was frightened by Chi Ancheng's cold gaze and did not dare to say anything. Yun Chujio did not continue to pay attention to this idiot Chi Tianhui. She took out another piece of demonic beast meat and said, you don't know, right? This is the meat of the nine-headed strange snake that looks like the nine neonate. Maybe it will increase your spiritual power greatly after eating it. Everyone was stunned. Previously, when they saw Yun Chujio put away the nine-headed strange snake's corpse, they thought that she was selling it for money. They did not expect that it was not the case. When the swamp demonic beasts heard Yun Chujio's words, some of them were tempted. After all, the nine-headed strange snake's level was much higher than theirs. If they could eat its meat, it would definitely benefit their cultivation. Chapter 51-25? Although the swamp demonic beasts were somewhat tempted, they were still somewhat on guard and didn't go forward. I say, what are you afraid of? Afraid that it'll poison you? Tsk, isn't the nose of your demonic beasts very sensitive? If I poison you, you won't notice? Or is it that you're naturally timid and don't dare to come even half a step closer to us? Yun Chujio curled her lips and said. Those swamp demon beasts roared angrily, as if they wanted to tear Yun Chujio into pieces. What are you shouting for? What's so great about your loud voice? My goal is very simple. I want to feed you guys until you're full so that you won't find trouble with us. Eat or not. As Yun Chujio spoke, she threw out a few pieces of demon beast meat. One of the swamp bloodthirsty crocodiles couldn't resist the fragrance of the flesh and swam to a piece of demon beast meat with its courage. It sniffed the meat and swallowed it. Seeing that there was no abnormality, it immediately pounced on another piece of demonic beast meat nearby. Seeing that it was gobbling down the meat, the other swamp demonic beasts immediately let down their guard and started to fight for it. The battle between these demonic beasts caused the nearby swamp to splash up, and the roars were incessant. When everyone saw this scene, they guessed that Yun Chujia's intention was to make them kill each other. However, they were probably daydreaming. Yun Chujio ignored them and continued to throw the demonic beast meat forward. However, the closer she threw, the closer she got. The demonic beasts were all red-eyed from eating, so they wouldn't have noticed this. Besides, they didn't take Yun Chujio and the others seriously at all. In this swamp, they were the masters. Yun Chujio said to Old Tua and the others in a low voice, "He'll lure a few demonic beasts over later. You guys help me pull them up." Everyone was confused. What did she mean by pull them up? However, they quickly understood what Yun Chujio meant. That was because they saw that the few pieces of demonic beast meat that Yun Chujio had just thrown out had transparent threads attached to them. Clearly there was a hook hidden in the meat. Those swamp demonic beasts did not know that there was something fishy going on. They swallowed the demonic beast meat with a gulp before their jaws were hooked by the hook. Pull? Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. Did she think that it was easy to take advantage of Fairy Geo? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Everyone took the thread Yun Chujio handed them and tried their best to pull the swamp beasts up. After the swamp beasts realized that they had been tricked, they tried to bite the thread off. However, the thread was very thin and their teeth couldn't use any force. They were so angry that they wanted to use brute force to break the thread, but the thread was very strong and couldn't be broken in a short time. They let out a cry for help and wanted the other swamp beasts to help, but the swamp beasts wanted to have fewer competitors so they wouldn't save them. Therefore, 5 unlucky fellows were dragged onto the hard ground. Yun Chujio immediately restrained their spiritual power, then said with a smile, "Is the demon beast meat delicious? Since you ate my demon beast meat, you are my beast." The 5 swamp beasts were half dead from anger. Did this stupid girl want to subdue them? They all had integrity. This stupid human trying to subdue them was simply wishful thinking. Yun Chujio took out a large kitchen knife and waved it in front of them. There are 2 choices. One is that I chop you up and feed you to the other demon beasts, and the other is to establish a temporary contract with me. It's your choice. The 5 swamp demon beasts thought for a moment. Compared to their integrity, their lives seemed to be more important, so they cowered. Just as Yun Chujio was feeling proud, someone exclaimed, "Oh my God! What is that? Is it the legendary mermaid clan?" Chapter 51:26 Yun Chujio was shocked. She looked in the direction of the person's finger, but only saw a figure. The black fish tail glided quickly on the mud, but its upper body was covered by long black hair. No one could tell if it was a man or a woman. Everyone was in an uproar. Oh my God, it must be the legendary merman. I didn't expect there to be a merman in this 10,000-year-old swamp. Yes, it must be mermaids. Although we didn't see the front, the upper body is clearly in the shape of a human. That's not right. Didn't they say that mermaids live in the deep sea? Why would they appear in the 10,000-year-old swamp? Everyone discussed animatedly. They even temporarily put aside their current predicament. The main reason was that they were too shocked. Mermaids were legendary existences. Not to mention other things, their tears were water-repellent beads. Yun Chujio squinted her eyes and felt that something was wrong. However, she quickly retracted her gaze because the most important thing was to form a contract with the 5 swamp beasts first. Just as Yun Chujio was about to form a temporary contract with the 5 swamp beasts, a mournful song was heard in the swamp. It was more like a song than a song because there were no lyrics, only an ethereal and mournful melody. Everyone felt their hearts tremble and then some people shed tears. The beasts in the swamp immediately chased after the figure, and even the 5 beasts on the hard ground struggled to get over. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes, took out a large copper basin, and started to hit it with a rolling pin. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. As she hit it, she sang, 2 tigers, 2 tigers. They run fast, they run fast. One has no eyes and the other has no tail. Everyone shuddered and came back to their senses. They could not help but feel some lingering fear. It was rumored that the singing of mermaids could seduce people's souls. If Yun Chujio did not wake them up, they might have lost their lives. The swamp beasts were also awakened by Yun Chujio's singing. They fled in all directions in panic and disappeared into the swamp. The mermaids in front of them paused for a moment and then entered the swamp as well, as if nothing had happened. The crowd naturally discussed again. Yun Chujio ignored them and quickly established a temporary contract with the 5 swamp beasts. This fellow had always been a useless name maker and was too lazy to use his brain. He directly called them Big Fool, Second Fool, Third Fool, Fourth Fool, and Fifth Fool. The 5 newly made fools, how were they stupid? But that was also true. They had lost their freedom because of a few pieces of demon beast meat. They were indeed stupid enough. Yun Chujio glanced at them and said, "You guys dive into the mud now and see if there are any other demon beasts. If there aren't, we can move to the hard ground in front." Big Dummy said, "There's no need to look. There definitely aren't any other beasts. They were scared away by the messenger just now and don't dare to show themselves for a while." Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. "Messenger? Why do you call it a messenger? Is it really a merman?" "Because it's that man's subordinate, we call it a messenger. As for whether it's a merman or not, we're not sure because we've never seen its face before," Big Dummy explained. "That person? Who is it?" Yun Chujio asked in confusion. Silly and the others shivered. "That is a very terrifying existence. As long as it wants to, none of us will survive. I advise you to not go in. You won't be able to get out of this 10,000-year-old swamp." Chapter 51-27 Literary and Artistic Beast. Yun Chujio felt that it would be difficult to get to the bottom of it with just a few words, so she might as well take advantage of the absence of the demonic beasts and hurry on her way. Thus, she had the 5 fools stay alert in the swamp and instructed everyone to move to the hard ground in front of them. Everyone did not know what Yun Chujio and the 5 fools had said, and Yun Chujio did not intend to tell them. If these people knew that there was a terrifying existence in there, they would definitely be cautious. Since that was the case, they might as well not tell them. Following the previous method, they used the wooden board as a support point and successfully moved to another piece of hard ground. In this way they moved dozens of pieces of hard ground. Although there was a small mistake in the middle, there was no major mishap. However, they soon encountered a problem. The distance between the hard ground was getting larger and larger. It was impossible to jump over using the wooden plank as a support. Just as the group was frowning, Yun Chujio's gaze fell on the 5 fools. The 5 fools suddenly had a bad premonition. If time could be reversed, they would definitely not eat the demonic beast meat. Unfortunately, it was already too late. "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Yun Chujio had the 5 fools line up in the middle as a place for everyone to rest. This way, everyone could smoothly reach the hard ground. Although the 5 fools were extremely unhappy, they had no choice but to compromise. After everyone had moved to the hard ground, Yun Chujio said to the 5 fools, "As the saying goes, it's better to be happy alone than to be happy together. We can share happiness and difficulties together. You guys hook up with a few demonic beasts and he'll also contract them." The 5 fools felt that it made sense. When they were in trouble, none of the demonic beasts came out to help, so there was no psychological pressure to frame them. The 2 fools smiled sinisterly and said, "The sky will turn dark soon, and they will come out to look for food. When the time comes, we will help you lure a few." Yun Chujio nodded and fed them some demon beast meat as a reward. Then she asked about the previous matter again. Originally, everyone's strength in this swamp was about the same, so it could be considered peaceful. However, a few years ago, that person suddenly appeared and occupied the celestial pond in the middle of the swamp. Speaking of which, it was rather cowardly. Until now, we still didn't know what that person looked like. Because once we got close to the celestial pond, we would be muddle-headed. It was already good enough for us to keep our lives. How would we have the leisure to look at that person's appearance? Not to mention that person, we've only seen the back of his emissaries. Big Silly said somewhat gloomily. Second Silly added from the side, "That's right. That person is really too mysterious. Fortunately, it has always been nestled in the celestial pond and didn't come out. It only occasionally sends emissaries to catch a few demonic beasts." Yun Chujio pursed her lips. That thing really knew how to be mysterious. However, what was the celestial pond? Upon hearing Yun Chujio's question, Silly explained, "Although our swamp is full of mud, there is a hot spring at the center of the swamp. Miraculously, a pool of water formed within a radius of a few thousand feet around the hot spring. The bottom of the pool is not mud but white sand. The hot spring was not only extremely clear, but it was also filled with spiritual energy. That was why it was called the celestial pool. Before that person came, we could all go in to soak in it. However, ever since it came, we could only think about it in our hearts. Sigh, the days of soaking in the hot spring and thinking about the birth of beasts are gone forever." Yun Chujio found it funny in her heart. Each of these swamp beasts was uglier than the other, and each of them was a literary beast. Chapter 5128 was Pretentious Buttface, who was in the spirit beast bag, asked eagerly, "Little fairy, what is an artistic beast?" Yun Chujio wanted to say that an artistic beast was like an artistic youth, but after thinking about it, Buttface didn't know what an artistic youth was, so he simply said, simply put, as demonic beasts, they actually have the time to think about beast life, so they are called artistic beasts. Buttface blinked his dog eyes. "Oh, I know. They are just pretentious." Yun Chujio ignored Buttface. Instead, she asked the 5 idiots to hook up with a few demonic beasts and get old Tua and the others ready for battle. Although they were not good at fighting in the swamp, there were still many of them. With the help of the 5 idiots, it was not a problem to catch a few unlucky ones. After a while, the 5 idiots hooked up with 3 demon beasts. The 5 idiots were actually very smart. The reason why they only hooked up with 3 was because even if Yun Chujio and the others did not help, the 5 of them would not be at a disadvantage. Yun Chujio successfully contracted these 3 demon beasts, and then let the 8 of them continue to harm the other demon beasts. Everyone looked at Yun Chujio with more and more surprise. Although these demon beasts were not particularly high in rank, it was already good enough for an average person's spiritual sense to contract 5 of them. She actually contracted 8 of them and still had the strength to continue the contract? Along with Silly and the others continuously luring the demonic beasts over, Yun Chujio's number of demonic beasts grew like a snowball. Moreover, as the number of Silly and the others increased, there was no need to waste effort in coaxing them. They might as well use force. If they didn't follow them over, they would directly bite them to death. In any case, they wouldn't feel guilty at all if they outnumbered them. Very quickly, all the demonic beasts within a radius of several hundred li were scared away. Those that didn't escape became He Xinjia's subordinates. Everyone was already scared out of their wits. Especially Qi Tianhui. He did not dare to provoke her again. What a joke. If this fiend was not satisfied, he could take his life at any time. Mu Kelu and the rest were also scared out of their wits. They became more and more fearful of Yun Chujio, but they did not dare to have any bad thoughts for the time being. Yun Chujio was in a good mood. She already had dozens of swamp demonic beasts. Tomorrow she could let these swamp demonic beasts use large wooden boards to transport everyone between hard ground. The speed would be much faster. However, she always felt that the thing in the celestial pond and the so-called messengers were a bit strange. She didn't believe that they were mermaids. Because the big brother of the mermaids had clearly told her that he was the only one left of the mermaids. The rest were already dead. How could mermaids appear out of nowhere? Then what exactly were they? Yun Chujio had no idea at the moment. She could only find a spot and lie down to rest. The swamp was protected by the swamp beasts. There were people on duty on the hard ground, so she slept exceptionally soundly. The next morning, everyone set off again. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yun Chujio let the swamp beasts drag the wooden boards and moved everyone to the other hard ground. At the beginning, everyone was still a little scared, afraid that the beasts would throw them into the swamp if they were not careful. However, fortunately, the beasts were still reliable. Although they would sometimes make them fall, they did not really fall. Yun Chujio naturally could not let the swamp beasts work for free. Therefore, not only did she feed them the beast meat, she also gave them some pills. Of course, this fellow turned around and exploited a lot of good things from the other 3 families. What a joke. She wasn't stupid, how could she suffer such a loss? Chapter 5129, quickly used the Sanskrit mantra to kill. Just as things were progressing smoothly, an ethereal song sounded. The eyes of the swamp demon beasts instantly became lost. The people on the wooden board were also somewhat stunned. Seeing this, Yun Chujio thought, this is bad. She hurriedly took out a copper basin and began to knock. Wake up. Everyone wake up. Although Yun Chujio intervened in time, there was still a wooden board that fell. The few people standing on it fell into the swamp. They were Lan Luofeng and the others. Yun Chujio's expression changed. She ordered the demonic beasts to pull Lan Luofeng and the others out and then drag them to the hard ground. Yun Chujio quickly used water to wash away the mud on their bodies. Fortunately, they used their spiritual power to protect their noses and mouths. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Seeing that they were safe and sound, Yun Chujio heaved a sigh of relief and looked up into the distance. Just like what she saw yesterday, there was still a mermaid-like figure singing non-stop. Yun Chujio shouted coldly, "Shut up. You still have the nerve to come out after singing so badly?" Get as far away as you can. If you come out again, I'll kill you. The mermaid was obviously shocked by Yun Chujia's words. The tune that it was humming suddenly went out of tune, and then it sneaked into the swamp. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yun Chujio thought that the mermaid might come out to cause trouble. Therefore, she asked everyone to take out something that could make a sound. Once the mermaid came out again, she would use the sound to disturb it. As expected, when everyone moved again, the mermaid appeared again. However, everyone was already prepared. They all showed their abilities. Some were playing the zither, some were playing the flute, and some were hitting pots and pans. The mermaid could only dive back into the swamp in anger. Silly and the others sighed in their hearts. Humans were indeed smarter than them. Why didn't they think of this trick in the first place? No wonder the stinky girl gave them such a name. However, whether it was Yun Chujio or the demon beasts in the swamp, they clearly thought the matter was too simple. When they thought that the mermaid would not appear for the time being, 5 mermaids actually appeared in the distance. They chanted at the same time. The sounds made by the crowd did not work. Instead, they quickly fell into a daze. Among the crowd, only Old Tua and Yun Chujio remained awake. Old Tua was able to remain awake for the time being due to his high cultivation level. Yun Chujio, this pervert, had a black bead in her body. Naturally, she was not afraid of these things. At this moment, the eyes of the demonic beasts were dull. They wanted to swim in the direction of the mermaids. Therefore, the wooden boards they were supporting capsized one after another, and everyone fell into the swamp. What was worse was that everyone's expression was dull. They did not even put up their spiritual energy shields. If they were to delay any longer, none of them would survive. As the wooden boards that Old Tua and Yun Chujio were on were at the front, the moment the wooden boards capsized, the tips of their toes leaped onto the hard ground in front of them. Elder Tua shouted, "Sanskrit! Quick! Sanskrit!" Yun Chujio thought that she didn't know how to use Sanskrit, but she couldn't care less about that now. She immediately took out a piece of jade Bodhi leaf and started to play it. The magical thing was that the moment Yun Chujio's music started, the demonic beasts and everyone regained their clarity. Yun Chujio had told everyone before that if they were unlucky enough to fall into the swamp, they shouldn't struggle recklessly. They should try their best to keep their bodies level and slow down the speed of the fall. Therefore, when everyone regained their consciousness, they did not struggle in a panic. Instead, they followed Yun Chujio's instructions and waited for rescue. Chapter 51:30. Without Yun Chujio's order, those demonic beasts quickly dragged everyone to the hard ground. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Seeing that the 5 mermaids had already dived into the swamp, Yun Chujio also stopped playing. This guy was puzzled. She didn't seem to have used any Sanskrit sound just now. She just randomly blew a few times and it actually worked? Perhaps it was because one thing could subdue another. After all, the glazed Bodhi leaf was a Zen item, and it had a restraining effect on some evil things. After everyone was dragged to the hard ground, they slowed down for a while. After counting the number of people, dozens of people still died. Although it was very regrettable, it couldn't be helped. Lan Luofang glanced around and found that there were no members of the Lan family among the dead. Her heart moved, and she guessed that Little Nine must have told those demonic beasts to save the members of the Lan family first. Lan Luofang's guess was right. Yun Chujio was not a good person, so she naturally put the Lan family members first. As for the other 3 families, well, it was up to fate. After such a struggle, it was already evening. However, the group did not rest and continued to move forward. The reason was very simple. The earth chi was spreading faster. Yun Chujio felt that the earth chi was forcing them to get close to the so-called celestial pond as soon as possible. What secret was hidden there? In the next 2 days, Yun Chujio and the others traveled day and night. During this process, they subdued some demonic beasts, which made their speed increase quite a bit. The mermaids seemed to have disappeared and didn't appear again. However, everyone knew that there was probably a bigger crisis waiting for them. Even if they knew this, they could only continue forward because they had no way out. That night, Yun Chujio judged the progress of the earth energy spread and decided to let everyone rest for the night. After all, the demon beasts couldn't bear to travel through the night. Yun Chujio took out the demon beast meat and pills and fed them to the demon beasts in the swamp. She also praised them a few times in order to boost their morale. The Goei Batsao on Yun Chujio's head shook its leaves. This wretched girl was used to buying people's hearts. No, the heart of the beast. This fellow had been very obedient these few days. It was not that it had learned its lesson, but that it did not dare to show off because there was not much left in its small treasury. Its current color was already very light. It was very anxious in its heart. If the wretched girl still did not let it out, it was afraid that it could only disappear. This fellow cursed in its heart. These swamp demon beasts were each more stupid than the last. Why didn't any of the more powerful ones come over to cause trouble? If there was someone who wanted to cause trouble, could it be released? However, it was probably useless even if there was someone who wanted to cause trouble. The stinky girl had already subdued more than 100 demon beasts. If one came, one would die. How could he let the stinky girl let him out for a stroll? Thus, the Guai Chao in his dantian began to act cutely. Yun Chuzhou thought that it wanted to eat the pills, so she secretly swallowed 2 bottles of pills behind everyone's back. Unexpectedly, Guai Chao was still acting cuter than before. Yun Chuzhou frowned and cursed with her spiritual sense. 2 bottles aren't enough? Are you a pig? Yun Chuzhou ignored Guai Chao after cursing. Gowei Batsao held its breath. It was such an amazing existence, but it actually suffered all kinds of grievances because it couldn't speak. How could it be reasonable? After Yun Chuzhou finished scolding Guai Chao, she began to chew on the meat bun. This time she didn't forget a certain someone. She stuffed a meat bun into her sleeve. A certain someone who was diligently cultivating snorted. This ugly girl still had some conscience. The snort of a certain someone wasn't loud, but Yun Chuzhou still heard it. She pursed her lips. This tsundere. Chapter 51-31. What's going on? After dinner, Yun Chuzhou told the little silver snake about some of her guesses and thoughts in a low voice and said, Prince Charming, do you think the person in the celestial pond is Brother Mermaid? Although I don't think it's possible, I haven't seen him for a long time. I don't know how he is now. Yun Chuzhou had mentioned the matter of the mermaid brother to a certain someone when she was talking about Lan Luochen. Hence, the amnesiac snake did not have a good impression of the so-called mermaid brother at all. Since it was a fish, it had to have the self-awareness of a fish and just stay there. Why would it always appear in front of the ugly girl? The ugly girl even said that the fish was so beautiful. It was really ridiculous. How good could a fish be? Could it be that the fish scales were brighter than other fish? Yun Chuzhou saw that a certain someone didn't say anything, so she could only repeat, Prince Charming, do you think the one in the celestial pond is Big Brother Mermaid? What are those envoys? A certain someone said unhappily, I don't know how to calculate, who knows what that thing is. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. However, in warning you, I've already noticed that this 10,000-year-old swamp is full of dangers. Don't let your greed for beauty get in the way of proper business. Yun Chuzhou. Without waiting for Yun Chuzhou to speak, a certain lord continued. Although the voices of those emissaries sounded ethereal, they were mixed with some evil energy. It's absolutely impossible for them to be the voices of mermaids. Moreover, the mermaids love cleanliness the most. It's impossible for them to survive in this swamp. Yun Chuzhou nodded. She thought so too. Those emissaries were definitely not mermaids. She just didn't know if the one in the celestial pond was the big brother of the mermaids. Since the disappearance of the big brother mermaid, although she had seen him a few times, it was only his spiritual sense. She had never seen his real body. His real body must have been trapped somewhere. Logically speaking, it would not appear here. Just as Yun Chuzhou was thinking, a certain someone hesitated and asked, Is that mermaid really very good looking? Yun Chuzhou recalled the mermaid's beautiful face and immediately nodded. Yes, let me tell you, I have never seen such a good-looking man. The body of a certain amnesiac snake instantly stiffened and then snorted coldly. Since that mermaid looks very similar to Lan Luochen, then it means that it looks just like that. Your taste is really not that good. Although they look very similar, the eyes of the mermaid brother are blue, and the temperament is different. Although the mermaid brother is sad, he doesn't have Lan Luochen's stubbornness. He doesn't touch the secular world at all. He's ethereal like a legendary figure. Every time Yun Chuzhou said something, the silver snake's body stiffened. It felt like its heart was about to explode. Wasn't it just a broken fish? What did she mean by not being tainted by the secular world? What did she mean by being ethereal? She was simply spouting nonsense. While Yun Chuzhou was still spouting nonsense, a certain venerable snorted coldly. Enough. This venerable one still needs to cultivate. I don't have time to listen to your nonsense here. Yun Chuzhou rolled her eyes. He was the one who wanted to ask, and now he was complaining about her insolence. What a lunatic. Yun Chuzhou was about to turn around and leave when a certain someone said coldly, You don't have to worry too much. If the situation is urgent, I will protect you. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. Use your pot? A certain someone? He shouldn't have been soft-hearted. This ugly girl deserved to be taught a lesson. Chapter 5132. Although Yun Chujio said that, her heart felt warm. However, she knew that Di Biming said that he would protect her, so he would definitely pay a huge price. He might even lose his life. She would never allow that to happen. Prince Charming, you have to believe in me as I believe in you. I can do it, but you must not take the risk. Di Biming wanted to say something, but he did not know what to say. Thus, the man and the snake did not speak again. Although it was quiet, Di Biming's heart rippled. This strange yet familiar feeling made his heart soften. After a long silence, Yun Chujio suddenly thought of Qiying, who had not moved for a long time. It was better to ask him. Perhaps he could find out what those mermaids were. Therefore Yun Chujio used her spiritual sense to scan the spirit beast bag. She saw Qiying hiding in a corner, looking as if he could not afford to live. His eyes were dull like a stupid rabbit. Yun Chujio touched her nose. Qiying seemed a little miserable. However, she had no choice. This guy was a hardcore fan of the Divine Devil Hall Master. If she did not do this, she might be harmed by him. Yun Chujio sent a message to the Red Shadow Rabbit through Buttface. Qiying, do you know of a demonic beast that looks like a mermaid? The Red Shadow Rabbit didn't move, but its eyes moved slightly. It said coldly, I don't know. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Then do you know of a hot spring in the depths of the 10,000-year-old swamp? I don't know. Sigh, but that's true. Your status in the Divine Devil Hall isn't that high, and you're being ostracized. Naturally, your knowledge is limited. This so-called purple mask of yours is just a decoration. In reality, you don't know anything at all. Qiying's rabbit eyes revealed some anger, but he didn't say anything. Yun Chujio curled her lips. This Qiying had learned from his mistakes, and he was becoming more and more difficult to deal with. Yun Chujio sneered and said, Qiying, I won't beat around the bush with you. Anyway, if I die, you won't be able to live either. It's up to you. Qiying also sneered and said, it's better to die than to look like this. Whatever. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes and said, is that so? Your body has already been destroyed. Perhaps you have been slandered as a traitor of the Divine Devil Hall. TSK, even if you die, you have to die with the name of a traitor. How disappointed your lord must be. Also, your bullshit master definitely doesn't know about the matters in the demon region. Don't you want to go back and inform the others? Qiying was moved by Yun Chujio's words. He said coldly, there's a type of demon beast called General. It has a fish tail and long hair on its head and back. From its back, it looks very similar to a mermaid. It said that Gen can produce a sound similar to a human humming and can confuse people. It doesn't have any other abilities. Yun Chujio nodded. It seemed that those things should be the Gen that Qiying mentioned. What about the things in the hot spring? Qiying said impatiently, I don't know. I didn't see what was inside. Yun Chujio saw that she couldn't ask any more questions, so she didn't continue to ask. At least she knew that the Gen didn't have any other attacking methods, so she could be slightly relieved. The next morning, everyone continued to move forward. Big Silly said eagerly, do you see the hard ground in front? The celestial lake is in the middle of the hard ground. Yun Chujio looked over. Because she was far away, she could only vaguely see the shimmering waves. She did not see the terrifying existence that the Gen and Big Silly mentioned. Chapter 5133. The Celestial Pond. Fortunately, there was a hard ground near the Celestial Pond. They could rest on the hard ground for the time being and then make plans for the next step. When it was almost noon, everyone arrived at the hard ground closest to the Celestial Pond. The Celestial Pond not far away was quiet. Other than feeling the rich spiritual energy, it didn't seem to be any different from the ordinary pond water. However, Big Silly and the others kept quiet out of fear. None of them dared to go there rashly. Everyone wanted to go around it, but the 10,000-year-old swamp suddenly became narrower when they reached the Celestial Pond. If they wanted to go there, they had to go through the Celestial Pond. Yun Chujio took out a stone and threw it at the Celestial Pond. With a splash, the stone fell into the Celestial Pond. Other than stirring up a splash, there was no other movement. Everyone looked at each other. Where were the mermaids? Yun Chujio threw a few more stones into the pond, but there was still no reaction. Then the question was, should they go over? Yun Chujio looked at Silly and the others. Do you guys want to go in and take a bath? And then think about beast life inside? Silly and the others immediately retreated. What a joke. They had not lived long enough. Even if they were not smart enough, they knew that the celestial pond must have set up a trap and was waiting for them to fall into it. Yun Chujio was only trying to scare Silly and the others. She did not really intend to let them pass. She curled the corners of her lips and smiled in the direction of the celestial pond. We just want to make a path for us. If you let us pass, we will definitely reward you handsomely. The surface of the water was calm and there was no reaction. Yun Chujio said a lot of polite words, but there was still no reaction. Yun Chujio snorted coldly, "Is it interesting to hide a cat? If you still don't come out, I can only poison this pond." However, there was still no movement. "Oh, it seems that you are not afraid of poison? Then I will turn this pond into a spicy hot pot." Yun Chujio took out a sack of spicy noodles and threw it at the celestial pond. "Damn it, the spicy hot pot won't kill you." The sack was about to fall into the celestial pond, but it was knocked off course by a fish tail and landed on the hard ground opposite. However, after the sack landed on the ground, the spicy noodles still flew out, and some landed on the water surface of the celestial pond. The celestial pond suddenly splashed, and at the same time a song was heard. Everyone's and the demon beast's eyes immediately became blurred. Yun Chujio was already prepared. She immediately took out a piece of jade glass Bodhi leaf and started to play. The sound of the jade glass Bodhi leaf was like a stream of clear water, immediately waking everyone and the demon beasts up. They all stared at the celestial pond with their eyes wide open. There were 5 mermaids floating in the celestial pond. However, at this moment, everyone no longer thought that they were mermaids. Although their lower body was a fish tail, their upper body was not human at all. Instead, it was similar to the upper body of a pig. However, due to the long hair on their backs, they looked very similar to mermaids from afar. The 5 mermaids stared at Yun Chujio with eyes full of hatred and stopped singing. Yun Chujio put away the jade glass Bodhi leaf and chuckled, "Why? Do you hate me? TSK, I just enjoy the look of you who can't get rid of me even though you don't like me. You even learned to sing like mermaids with your ugly looks? You guys are really shameless. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." The 5 mermaids were obviously very angry. They kept hitting the water with their tails. Yun Chujio knew that they were summoning their leader. She wanted to see what it was. Chapter 51-34 I am undone. At this moment, the water splashed and something came out of the celestial pond. However, everyone was stunned when they saw what came out. What the hell was this? The thing that came out of the water looked like a huge bear. The fur on its body was very long. Although it had 4 legs, it did not have claws. It looked very strange. What was even more surprising was that its 2 bell-sized eyes had no eyeballs and its ears were drooping. At this moment, Zhuang Ruhai suddenly cried out in a low voice, "Hun-dun! This is the ancient ferocious beast Hun-dun. There are records in ancient books that it looks like a bear. It has long fur covering its body and 4 legs without claws. It cannot see and cannot hear. This is simply the same." When everyone heard this, their faces revealed a look of horror. Heavens, it was one of the 4 great ancient ferocious beasts. This was 10,000 times more terrifying than the 9 neonate that they had heard of previously. They would not be able to survive. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. "Undone." She used her spiritual sense to ask Buttface, who was in the spirit beast bag, "Is that thing in front Hun-dun? It should be that idiot, but its strength doesn't seem to be much. Little fairy, you don't have to be afraid of it at all," Buttface said disdainfully. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes when she heard Buttface's words. What is Hun-dun's weakness? Buttface immediately laughed sinisterly. Hun-dun is the most brainless fellow. Moreover, its temper is that people tend to resist virtue while people tend to rely on vicious virtue. Yun Chujio glared at it. "Speak human language. Aya, just like me, it doesn't like good people. It likes evil people like you, little fairy," Buttface said eagerly. "To put it bluntly, it's just cheap," Yun Chujio said with a smile. Buttface, there was no way to have a friendly chat. At this moment, Hun-dun opened his mouth to speak. His hoarse voice was like a saw cutting through wood. "I am Hun-dun. Please leave quickly or you will die." After Hun-dun finished speaking, a huge pressure spread out. Everyone was frightened by the pressure it emitted. Those swamp demon beasts were so scared that they even sneaked into the swamp, afraid that they would lose their lives. At this moment, Yun Chujio laughed lightly. "Are you really Hun-dun? Why do I look like a fake? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Everyone thought that this Yun Chujio was too bold. This was definitely Hun Dun. It had already admitted it, how could it be fake? Moreover, this huge pressure was not something that ordinary demonic beasts could have. Hun Dun, who was in the pond, snorted angrily, "Of course I am Hun Dun, the little human actually suspects me, he is really courting death. Didn't you say that Hun Dun is not only blind but also deaf? Then why can you see us and hear us? You are definitely an imposter." Hun Dun snorted in disdain, "Although I can't see or hear, I have a lot of supernatural powers, so I can naturally do it. So that's how it is. So you are really Hun Dun? But why did Xiong Qi and Tao Wu say that Hun Dun was already dead?" "Bullshit. They are bullshit. I am alive and well, they are the ones who are dead. You are courting death." Hun Dun cursed. Yun Chujio pouted. "Why aren't you being arrogant? A fierce beast actually wants to pretend to be a cultural beast. Shameless. Don't think that you can fool them with your little show. If you really have the ability, you wouldn't be cooped up here. I have heard that among the 4 great fierce beasts, you are the most stupid. You don't have a brain at all. You actually want to threaten me?" Chapter 51:35 Combs. Hun Dun was obviously very angry. The long hair on his body stood up. "Smelly girl, you're courting death." "Yes, I'm here to seek death. Come and kill me," Yun Chujio said indifferently. Everyone thought that Yun Chujio was most likely crazy. This was the ancient fierce beast Hun Dun. What else could she be if she wasn't courting death by provoking him? However, that Hun Dun didn't do anything. Instead, it changed its face and said, "Little girl, I find you very interesting. How about this? He'll let you go over, but everyone else must stay behind to be my food. What do you think?" When everyone heard this, they were both dumbfounded and terrified. What they were dumbfounded about was naturally that there was something wrong with this Hun Dun's head, right? Yun Chujio scolded it so much, yet it actually thought that she was interesting? What was frightening was that if Yun Chujio agreed to Hun Dun's words, wouldn't they die here? Right at this moment, Yun Chujio laughed lightly and said, "All right. If one doesn't do it for oneself, the heavens will punish the earth. As long as I can live, it's fine. Whether others die or not has nothing to do with me." Hun Dun immediately laughed out loud. His hoarse voice was exceptionally terrifying. "Good. Very good. I like your personality. If that's the case, you can go. Don't worry, I will not sneak attack you." Yun Chujio waved her hands behind her back and jumped into the celestial pond. The crowd did not know what she meant, so they did not move and just stared at her. When Hun Dun saw Yun Chujio jump into the celestial pond, a faint light flashed in his empty eyes. All the long hair on his body suddenly wrapped around Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio did not resist. She allowed Hun Dun to use the long hair to drag her into the water. The surface of the water instantly regained its calm. Even the 5 mermaids had disappeared without a trace. "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Everyone was in chaos. What should they do? Elder Tua thought of the gesture that Yun Chujio had made earlier and said to everyone, "Little Jio has always been smart. Since she did this, she must have her own thoughts. We can just wait here." At this moment, everyone had no backbone. After hearing what Elder Tua said, they could only wait on the spot. They couldn't do anything even if they didn't wait on the spot. Because Yun Chujio wasn't here, those swamp beasts wouldn't listen to them at all. On the other side, Yun Chujio was dragged into the water. A white light flashed, and when she regained her sight, she was already in a cave. Yun Chujio curled her lips. Hun Dun was a little miserable too. For example, the white tiger had an underground palace. However, this guy only had a broken cave. However, Tao Wu and Xiong Qi were also miserable. They became other people's soul beasts. Yun Chujio came back to her senses and touched Hun Dun's long hair. It was smooth and felt good. "You pervert. You actually took advantage of me. You're really courting death." Hun Dun shouted in exasperation. Yun Chujio was speechless. Where did this guy get the courage to say such words? Take advantage of him? She was not blind to fall for a long-haired monster. While Yun Chujio was cursing in her heart, she was already dragged into the depths of the cave by Hun Dun. The 5 mermaids followed closely behind. There were many demon beast bones in the cave. However, Yun Chujio's gaze suddenly shrunk. Those were combs? There were many combs that were polished with beast bones on the ground. Although the workmanship was very rough, the number was definitely considerable. With a rough look, there were probably 400 to 500 combs. Yun Chujio thought to herself, were these combs used by the mermaids or Hun Dun? Chapter 5136 Braiding Hair. Just as Yun Chujio was sizing up the combs, Hun Dun released Yun Chujio and said arrogantly, "Originally I wanted to eat you, but I saw that you were very envious of my long hair, so I decided to let you live. You stay and comb my long hair." Yun Chujio, she had never dreamed of such a scene. Was this Hun Dun an ancient fierce beast? He must be an idiot. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and said, "All right, then I'll stay. Why don't I comb you now?" Hun Dun's big head nodded. "Very good, you little weakling, know your place." Yun Chujio did not show it on the surface, but she gritted her teeth in her heart. "Very good, I'll deal with you later. Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." Yun Chujio picked up a big comb from the ground and began to comb Hun Dun's long hair. It was estimated that this fellow combed it many times every day, so the long hair was very smooth. It did not take much effort to comb it. Hun Dun let out a comfortable snort and said, "You little weakling are much more agile than those 5 idiots. They often break my long hair." As Hun Dun said, he pointed to a corner of the cave with one leg and said, "See? That is the tomb where I broke my hair. Those 5 idiots have to kowtow to my long hair every day." Yun Chujio looked in the direction that Hun Dun was pointing at. As expected, there were a few stones piled up in a corner. She could vaguely see some hair behind the stones. Yun Chujio's heart was like a beeping dog. This Hun Dun was simply a psychopath. However, there was one thing that she could see. This Hun Dun was extremely concerned about its long hair. Since that was the case, she would let it learn a lesson. Hun Dun cursed a few more times. The 5 mermaids were lying on the ground silently. It was obvious that they were used to being scolded. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. "Hun Dun, not only do I know how to comb my hair, I also know how to braid it. I know all kinds of braids. Why don't I try to braid it for you?" Hun Dun said in surprise, "Really? I have never braided before." "Then try to braid it for me. If you do it well, I will reward you heavily." Yun Chujio nodded and immediately began braiding little braids for Hun Dun. Of course, this guy was not that kind. Braiding little braids? What a joke. This guy had tied Hun Dun's long hair into countless knots. He looked like a poodle with curly hair. Hun Dun was not aware of it at all. He was waiting for a wonderful show in a while. When the 5 mermaids saw it, they anxiously cried out. Hun Dun shouted impatiently, "All of you shut the fuck up. I know that you are all jealous of this little weakling being pampered, but who asked her to be smarter than you? If you continue to quarrel, I will eat you." The 5 mermaids looked at each other and did not say anything. They just tacitly retreated far away because they knew that the fiend would definitely fly into a rage in a while. After a while, Yun Chujio clapped her hands. "All right, it's done. You can take a look now." Hun Dun stood up happily and took out a huge crystal mirror from somewhere. He looked at himself in the mirror with longing. Then he was dumbfounded. Hun Dun looked at himself in the mirror in disbelief. His smooth long hair was tied into ugly knots. Many of them were knots in the middle. Was that ugly thing in the mirror himself? Chapter 5137 Was she really that outstanding? Hun Dun raised a front claw and the thing in the mirror also raised its front claw. Hun Dun shook his head again and the thing in the mirror also shook its head. "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Hun Dun let out a shrill scream. If people did not know, they would have thought that he was suffering some inhuman abuse. "Stupid girl. Little weakling. Ugly freak. I'm going to kill you. Give me back my long hair. Give me back my long hair." Hun Dun roared like he had gone mad. He stretched out his long hair and tried to entangle Yun Chujio. Unfortunately, his long hair was tied into a knot by Yun Chujio. He did not do anything to Yun Chujio, but he tripped Hun Dun himself. Hun Dun was going crazy with anger. "Little weakling, if it wasn't for my soul power being used to create a physical form, I would have smashed you into meat paste." Yun Chujio watched from the side and thought to herself what Buttface said was right. This Hun Dun's brain was indeed not that good. Otherwise, why would he reveal his trump card? Hun Dun roared for a long while before saying, "Forget it, I won't stoop to your level. Untie my long hair knot and I will not only let you leave, but those people can also leave with you." Yun Chujio laughed. "Hun Dun, do you think you have the right to negotiate with me? You only have one choice now, and that is to acknowledge me as your master, or I will kill you." Hun Dun was so angry that he wanted to pounce on Yun Chujio, but he fell down again. He roared angrily, "You want to kill me? What a joke, I am an ancient beast. Although I don't have much strength left, you little weakling actually dare to say such harsh words to me? You are tired of living." Yun Chujio looked at Hun Dun and shook her head. She thought to herself, how did such an idiot become an ancient ferocious beast? Buttface, who was in the spirit beast bag, said eagerly, little fairy, you don't know. Although this Hun Dun is very stupid, its life is hard. It has the aura of Hun Dun in its body, so its body has a very strong recovery ability. Even if it is seriously injured, it will recover very quickly. Yun Chujio nodded. So that was the case. She had said it before, otherwise such an idiot would die 8 times a day. Hun Dun, since you acknowledge me as your master, I will help you untie all the knots on your long hair. Otherwise your soft and long hair will only become a memory. Yun Chujio said. Don't even think about it. I will not give in. I still have them. They will help me untie all these knots. Hun Dun pointed at the 5 mermaids and said. Yun Chujio looked at the 5 mermaids' short and fat claws and said with a smile, are you sure they can untie them? Hun Dun thought of the stupid looks of the 5 mermaids and immediately felt uncertain. Yun Chujio took out Buttface and said, Buttface, tell it? Hun Dun was stunned at first, then he looked at Buttface carefully and laughed out loud, I'm dying of laughter. I can't take it anymore, I'm dying of laughter. You actually turned into this ghastly appearance? And you're still called Buttface? Haha, how embarrassing. Buttface was not angry. He waited until Hun Dun had laughed enough before he said, I know you're jealous that I have a good name like Buttface. I won't argue with you. For the sake of old acquaintances, let me give you a piece of advice. The little fairy is the worst, most perverted, and most shameless person I've ever met. If you miss such a master, you'll regret it. Hun Dun asked suspiciously, is she really that outstanding? Yun Chujio, was it because she was inexperienced or were these 2 idiots crazy? Chapter 5138. The past of Hun Dun. Dog 2 nodded with certainty. Of course. The little fairy is full of bad ideas. Didn't you see it just now? If she was a good person, would she have thought of such a bad idea? Hun Dun nodded. What you said makes sense. She is indeed very bad and excellent. Dog 2 said proudly, of course. A little fairy with a name like Dog 2 is naturally not an ordinary person. Oh right, you weren't so perverted before? Why do you care so much about your long hair now? Hun Dun gnashed his teeth and said, don't mention it. 10,000 years ago I was free and unfettered. I simply ran amok. However, I once offended a smelly girl and then I was out of luck. That smelly girl didn't kill me, but shamelessly shaved off all my long hair. Brother Cheongchi, you don't know. Without long hair, what's the difference between this and a human sprinting? Moreover, most of my abilities were on long hair. Without long hair, I lived a miserable life. From then on, I swore that I would treat my long hair well. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Furthermore, don't you think that my long hair is very beautiful? It makes my face look like a crown of jade, handsome and elegant. Hearing Hun Dun's words, Buttface was so disgusted that he almost vomited. Alright, stop talking. Are you trying to disgust me to death? Alright, who is that stinky girl you mentioned? How could she harm you to such an extent? For some reason, when Yun Chujio heard Buttface's words, she felt a little guilty. This fellow consoled himself that it was probably not her doing. After all, if it was her doing, Hun Dun would have recognized her long ago. Hun Dun said unhappily, that damn stinky girl was wearing a mask at that time, so I didn't see her face at all. Yun Chujio heaved a sigh of relief inexplicably. However, when she heard Hun Dun's next sentence, her heart was in her throat again. That damned brat originally wanted to draw a few little bastards on me. Fortunately, many monks caught up with her and said that she stole some bell or some wooden fish. When she realized her conscience, she released me, Hun Dun said while gnashing his teeth. Buttface's dog eyes instantly widened and he looked at Yun Chujio who was beside him. Yun Chujio staggered and then glared at Buttface fiercely. Buttface used his divine sense to flatter her. Little fairy, don't worry. I won't betray you. Besides, this Hun Dun's brain isn't working well. He won't notice it for a while. Yun Chujio finally felt relieved. She thought to herself that she had been a devil in her previous life. She was so miserable in this life. Was it because she had done too many wicked things in her previous life that she was punished? Hei Shinjio calmed herself down and said to Buttface, hurry up and convince him to establish a contract with me. Otherwise more bad things will happen. Buttface immediately said to Hun Dun, Brother Hun Dun, let's not talk about those sad things. You can't always hold it in here, can you? Why don't you acknowledge the little fairy as your master? At least you can untie the knot on your long hair. Hun Dun snorted coldly. Although she is indeed excellent, I'm used to freedom and don't want to be restrained by others. Although the little fairy is bad, she is still very good to her spiritual pets. She won't be too restrained to you, Buttface advised. You don't have to say it. On account of your face I can let you leave. As for the matter of recognizing your master, forget it, Hun Dun said with certainty. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.